Welcome to Late Night at the Movies, episode 10, Snatch.
Told you it wasn't going nowhere. I get it. I was in the middle of my fucking first study tonight.
I had to bust out that song for the intro. I just couldn't pull it up as fast there. That was the best. He's like, "Oh, I love this tune" when he's in the car. I know there's been better intro songs, but that one made me laugh. What's going on? I thought I left this fucking show. What's going on here?
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I thought. But you know what? I keep pulling you back, man. I keep pulling you back. I told you. I'll pull you back again on Saturday too. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
I won't have to hold your fucking arm for that one. Don't worry.
So what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Late Night at the Movies. We watched the movie Snatch. You know, which I can't wait to have to stop saying that, and to JT to have his little girlish giggles over there or whatever. It's like giggles there.
Got nothing to do with Snatch, guys. It's got nothing. So just if you're looking for that type of, hit me up on my DM and I'll hook you up with some sites. But it's got nothing to do with Snatch. But you know what? I go say to Uniques, the second time watching it around, third time watching it around, sort of thing. It was a lot better, especially with subtitles, man.
Yeah. So let's get into what we normally do around here when we do introduce the movie. Is let you guys know our history with the film, if anything. Why don't you start us off there then?
Well, my history with the film is far from anything. It doesn't have no history with this film, except maybe the word. But the movie itself, I've watched it, I think roughly when it came out, but it's been years, and I don't think I sat through it. I don't think I had that sort of, I didn't catch it for the first, it's just like anything. If you don't, it doesn't catch you right away. Sometimes you don't stay on the movie, and you put it in the background. But yeah, it actually just started now, and just watched it the other day, like two days ago, and then watched it again last night just for the fucking shits and giggles, because it actually was funny when you get over all the weirdness that's going on. But yeah, it was a great movie. What about you? I mean, I know you have some history with this movie, so not so much, but history. But
Paul Blart saying I didn't like the movie. Controversial statement right at the top of the discussion here. Yeah, I mean, I've seen the movie, I feel like 10 times at this point. I've seen this movie quite a bit. As we get into the discussion here, it's probably definitely my favorite Guy Ritchie film as well, because I think it was my introduction to his stuff. It made me backtrack and find another film of his very closely related to this one, which I don't know if you actually saw this other one. It's called Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
As soon as I put this one on, it kept showing me that movie too. So I guess it had something to do with it, right? Or not to do with it, but
absolutely.
Same director.
Absolutely. It's that was like the first thing I guess that kind of got him noticed as a director, and the leftover stories that he wasn't able to basically fit in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, he fit in this movie. So like this is almost like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels Part 2, unofficial. Of course, there is different characters involved in this one, but it's definitely got the same type of feel, like the kind of crime heist type, with all these interesting different characters and a lot of the same actors, really, for that matter too. This is the more big budget version, Hollywood version of that film, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, I would say. And so yeah, so when I saw this, I found out about the other film like probably a couple years later, and then I ended up going back and watching that. But my history with this film was just around the time, like this came out in the year 2000. When I was probably like 17, 18, 19, around there as a teenager, I probably saw this for the first time when I was actually taking my time at that point to actually go back and watch some of the good films I may have missed out on. Even since at that time that movie wouldn't have been so old, but definitely, I was doing my due diligence and going back and getting my friend to like burn me a bunch of films and and track down things that I feel like I would have enjoyed. So this is definitely one that I came across that I still love to this day, right?
Oh yeah, I can see why you like it. I can see the humor. I can see the comedy. I can see that style of movie. I mean, I'm not. I'm still trying to figure out how come you're such a big Guy Ritchie fan. I mean, I liked a couple of films, but I don't know. I mean, I think after he married Madonna, that was it for him. That was his downfall. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
um,
I'm at least making these type of movies though. You're right in the sense that he really just kind of came back with a trilogy, making it a trilogy with the gentleman that we recently just talked about, but it had been a long, long time.
mhm.
He actually did a movie like that until very recently, right? And like you said, he did get married to Madonna at that point, which I thought, despite the intro being a Madonna song, I thought that's why it was also fitting. But he was also in the film Snatch, and you're picking up a lot of audio over on your end. Over there. I don't know what's going on. A lot of audio outside.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe that. I
so
get you get me better now, or what?
yeah,
Like
hopefully it's
that.
coming off very loudly and picking up a lot of background noise. But yeah, so um, but yeah, he these type of films, yeah, with the gentleman that recently came out not too long ago. Yeah, it was awesome. But I think with each film that he's done, if you go back to Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrels that were kind of like this type of genre
Mhm.
of film, I guess his English gangster type films, if you want to call it that, or crime films or heist films or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
each one kind of got bigger budget, bigger stars as his career went on, right? So like, yeah, but I guess you're right. Like I found an interview with him reflecting on Snatch, the movie, I guess maybe just like a year or so ago. And I found on YouTube a clip that I watched. It's like a 20 or 30-minute interview, and he said he had watched Snatch for the first time since I guess he made it. And I learned some stuff from that I never knew. I recently watched that. You can find it on YouTube, everybody, if you do a search for it.
What's that called again?
It's called like Guy Ritchie saw the movie Snatch for the first time, and like I don't know, just put Guy Ritchie Snatch and it should show up. Like there's like some interviews I guess he did about the movie, and this is one where he no, not something like that would show up. Jay, I see your face there. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
If you YouTube that, you got to stop making these Snatch jokes at some point. Okay, that's enough. Honestly, like
I just went. I just shook my head, but I didn't say
you're
anything.
talking about the movie now. I seen the fucking grin on your face. We're talking about the movie now. Like if we have a serious discussion, all right? We all
I'm
get it.
ready.
Snatch jokes. Okay. But yeah, but so he talks about like how he put this movie together and how it was like basically a bunch of topic like stories that he heard in pubs
Mhm.
like over his years of going to pubs from like 1986 or 7 or something like that to like 1998, he said like basically, and that's how he kind of put the soundtrack together for the film as well. He said, oh yeah, these are just a bunch of songs that I used to remember hearing on the jukebox when I used to go to pubs.
Yeah,
And all the stories that he told in the movies he said were just stories that he picked up from here and there from going to frequenting pubs, right? So maybe like stories about guys that maybe got into small crimes and stuff like that, or things maybe rumors. Maybe he went and changed the name. He heard, oh yeah, there's this crazy like gypsy Irish guy or something. You know what I mean? Like so he
yeah,
kind of he used all these maybe stories he said he claims from going to pubs all these years and use them in this film and kind of string them all together and made it like his own little world and the challenge was trying to figure out how they all connected together.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's kind of how he came across. And like he said, like going into Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrels, he was still very, green, like a director that was very new at that time.
Yeah.
And it definitely got him noticed a bit, but he was very nervous and like working very hard on that film at that time because of that. But then he said by the time he went and did Snatch, he wasn't, like he said, like some people thought it was weird how very calm he was, like almost like he was like the movie he was born to make, like he knew everything in his head, like how he wanted it to be. He just had such a vision for it and kind of plan that he executed in making this movie that he just said he had no nerves doing it. He just kind of, you know what I mean? Like the process was just very much easier for him the second time around. And he said his one regret was if he wanted to, like what that he wished he did was make a sequel to this film. So at that point in time, maybe when this clip was made, maybe The Gentleman hadn't come out yet at that point, because he didn't really touch on that. But he said, I was hoping to do like another film like this, or with a sequel with these type of same characters. He's like, and every time I think about that, I wish I went back and actually have made another movie like this. So yeah, maybe it was more than a year old then. It just, I don't know when it was done, but it was just uploaded within the last year to YouTube. So it's a clip of him talking about that. So I really think if you want to see why I like him as a director, that's the finest example of it is those three films. But watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, and then The Gentleman very recently. I love all of them, but all of them are somewhat similar in that sense. Like they're all about kind of underground crime type stuff and all these different types of characters, right? I mean, I know that you've seen The Gentleman, you've seen Snatch now, again for the second or third time, whatever, as you mentioned. You should go back and watch that Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels if you've never checked that one out. I absolutely got to say that.
Well, it's on my radar now that it's there. And now that I see it, it keeps popping up. Then I'm gonna probably try it out because I mean, like I said, this a couple of times around watching this, and I actually enjoyed it that second time around. You know what I mean? And then the third time, and that, you know what I mean? I heard that Brad Pitt was like begging him to do this role.
Yes, they talked about that in the, like I said, it was only like a half an hour interview with Guy Ritchie, but he talked about like all the different actors and how they came together very quickly. He kind of did a good job of summarizing a lot of things. They talked about that in that video too, about he saw Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Brad Pitt, and he said, I want to work with that guy. And at this point, when he reached out to Guy Ritchie to work with him, he was huge. This was part of the mad tear of like a crazy run that Brad Pitt had at that time, right? So like he's like, wow, he's like, big movie star Brad Pitt contacted me. I got to figure out a role for him. So he kind of had this Irish character role in mind, but he didn't really have Brad Pitt in mind. He kind of was like, okay, I need to use him. He wants to work with me. I'm going to use Brad Pitt in this film. So he said, hey, how about this character, right? And we'll get into it, but yeah, he kind of he wasn't very happy with the accent. Guy Ritchie wasn't, like, Brad Pitt wasn't happy with the accent. Guy Ritchie wasn't happy with the accent, and Guy Ritchie was like apparently on the set trying to show him how to play this character, right? And like apparently Brad Pitt made some comment about, wow, man, you do it so well, like you should be playing this character, like what am I doing? So then apparently him and Matthew Vaughn, who also went on to become a big director too, who was working with him on the film, he said that they were nervous like the rest of the shoot with him because they were like, oh shit, like, I don't want to like break his confidence in doing this. So they kind of ran with the whole Mickey is a guy you can't really understand thing because clearly he wasn't getting the accent. So they kind of tried to like throw in this whole like he's a gypsy, so he's Irish, but you still can't understand what the fuck they're saying half the time. And then it became like an ongoing joke. And one of the better things about the films, to be honest, so that's very interesting. I think that's pretty organic how that kind of came to be. It was just because he wasn't really, he had a dialect coach, like a person trying to teach him how to do that accent, but I guess Brad Pitt really couldn't hammer it down to their satisfaction. So he kind of just went with the thing that he kind of made up with his accent, basically. Oh. So that, which is awesome, right? Like that's one of my favorite parts of the films. And yeah, to Richard's point here, not that, but basically, yeah, he said Brad did a great job, though. Yeah, absolutely. Brad did a great job in this movie. I think it's one of his more memorable roles, right? But again, this is Fight Club times right now. Like when he did this film, right? He was on a run when he did this. So I think clearly, and then that's why I think like in The Gentleman, the big white actor role instead of all these English guys and Scottish, whatever these fucking, all these different people are in it. Obviously went to McConaughey, right? You see in The Gentleman, he's the white maybe guy from America, and everybody else is right, like not right. So it's the same deal in that film. I feel like with him casting McConaughey as the bad guy in that, well, not the bad guy, but the drug lord, right? So
It's been, that movie was good too. No, but no, this is this one here, like you're saying with Brad Pitt too. I mean, even when you know that he's having a hard time or he's doing it. I didn't know if he was doing it, but if he was having a hard time, but you notice it when the subtitles, like I said on the TV, like they don't pick it up either. They just call it like scattering, like a talk in brackets, right? And then I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's a great way to have a movie. You have no idea, but you can kind of put the gist together. I mean, it's not that hard, right? It's pretty good in that sense. He's got at least the first part of the sentence and the last part of the sentence, and if you got that, you can make up whatever you need to in between.
This is like when he sees that other fucking that big fucker, the
one he wants to fight with.
He's like, wow, you look like a boxer over there.
Yeah.
Guys, look at the size of one. Like, I did for mama. He's like, what?
Mama. You what? Yeah, mama. I don't know. It's probably the way people hear me talk.
It's mine. And then they all like show him the picture. They're like, oh.
Yeah. What do they call them? Pikeys? In England?
Essentially, yeah, Pikeys.
Yeah. Those gypsies, you got to watch out for those gypsies, man. And if there's any gypsies watching, I'm being honest, man. You got to watch out for them, man. They can, they'll take your wallet without you looking. Right, boy.
So I guess without further ado, though, we should get into the categories here. But I kind of just wanted to
give yourself a little rundown. Give everybody a little rundown, eh?
Not only that, but just to preface all this conversation to say, go back and watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like that was another one I would feel like I could even talk about as well. But it's definitely, he got it 100% right with this film, while that film like felt more indie-ish because there was a super low budget. There was a lot of the same characters. Jim Jones was in there, and Jason Statham. Like there was a lot of like guys like very young at that time in that film too. And I still think that film's good too. But you could tell like this is the one where he perfected the formula, right? And then like if you go on 20 years later with The Gentleman, now he's trying all kinds of new different tricks in that film. Like that one even got way more complicated than this movie, like in the way he brought everything together. Like that one I think is like Snatch ×2 in terms of like the plot, like how big it gets in The Gentleman compared to this one, right? And
I see,
and like more characters even, like it's crazy.
I see how you when I had brought up that movie that I had watched not too long ago, Sin City, and I had said that there was like 3 stories coming into one. I see how you kind of you went that way, and you said that about this one, that it was going to be sort of the same along the same lines of that, and to keep my eye on things, right? And that's why probably the second and third time around it got better, because you started to figure it all out, right? But yeah, no, it was a great movie like to watch if you really want to sit there and get watch it and watch a good role being played, even though it's kind of. And it's almost like an easy role that he played, right? But I mean, he played it really well with Brad Pitt. I mean, it wasn't, both of them really didn't have the hardest roles, right? The two being, I would think, the ones that got the most airtime.
To be fair, Brad Pitt. A lot of people think of Brad Pitt when they think of this film, but he's not. It's an ensemble cast. He's not the character of this movie, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like and that's what's interesting about rewatching it this time as well, is just seeing how much airtime everybody really has, because as the story goes on, you get introduced to all the characters, all the players in this game. that they're basically playing all after the same diamond. That's the through line of a story of them all kind of chasing this diamond for one reason or another in the film, right? And then as it goes on, you kind of see like, and some parts were so memorable, or some characters you just love so much that it takes over, at least in my mind, such a big part of the movie. But then like rewatching it in this one, like Vinnie Jones's character, Bullet Tooth Tony, is like the last guy they really introduced, and that's one of my favorite characters in this movie. But if you rewatch it now, like it was interesting going into it this time watching it, because I kind of took note of that. Like he's only in a small part of the film, right? Like Benicio del Toro, really just in like the first like he's in 2 scenes. Like he has a bag on his head in one scene. It may not even be him, right? Like he probably just came and did like a day worth of shooting for this movie, right? Like and he was pretty popular at that time too when they did this, right? Another guy, he was coming off of The Usual Suspects, a film that you really enjoy, right? So yeah, so that was really interesting seeing him in this as well, right? And again, another guy you can barely understand. Suspects, that's the case, right? So yeah.
Call me Susan.
So yeah, so let's get into it. You want to start out with favorite quotes or scenes? I guess we'll do scenes first, right?
Yeah, let's try with the scenes first, and let's go with that, because that'll lead into quotes as well too. I mean, that I always wonder where we should go with that. I think there should be scenes, because they tend, when you start to say the scenes, they tend to lead into the quotes as well, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, so Guy Ritchie directed and wrote this movie. But yeah, go ahead, Jay. You want to start us off with and I gotta say, it was impressive because yeah, he didn't just apparently he had all these ideas and these stories put together, and he was actually going to get somebody else to write this. He was just going to tell them all the scenes he wanted them to work into the script, but he apparently just wasn't working out with anybody. So yeah, fuck it, I'll just write it myself. And great job on the script for this film, because it's so tightly written. There really isn't that much room for much else. Like they don't really go off the beaten path at all in this film. Like it's very focused, like like so, like again, like just the way he connected everything, just beautifully done. And I know at this point in time, obviously there was a lot of other filmmakers that I kind of did that in films for him probably to even take inspiration from. Obviously, a lot of people go first, they'll say that about Quentin Tarantino or something like that, right? So like, and I'm sure there were people before him that did it as well. But I know that like, yeah, it's just very tightly written. Everybody's got a purpose. And the intro of the film, fantastic. Because and they could do that more in more movies. Is introduce the characters with their names and the music rolling and stuff like that, and then get into the film, because that's kind of how they did in this film. Like each one, they kind of gave you a second, and they were kind of involved in a scene, the character. Then it would do like one of those freeze kind of frame things, and you see their name beside it, and they move, and then that way, right from the start, you already know almost all the players, like right from the start of the film. Like you may not see them in the movie yet, but at least you know going into it, okay, this guy's name is this actor's playing this guy. And I think it just helps in a movie like this, where there's like 15 characters, right, that are all going to cross paths. So I liked that. But go ahead, Jay. The scenes.
Yeah, they do it, that narration, that opening part where Jason Statham basically is talking the story about everybody, right? But that's the one. That's one of the first ones I like. The one where he's talking with the what's his name, Bricktop, Alan Ford there. When he's talking with him in the beginning, and he's talking about how many people, he's talking about how much food the pigs could digest in the human body and stuff like that, and he was explaining that whole situation as he's walking through, not realizing that how that's might play later on in the movie. I didn't realize it'd come up somewhere else in the movie.
The pig stalls, yeah. They're walking through them at the start of the film, yeah. And in that starting scene, like basically him explaining to you, Jason Statham, like that, and yeah, like you said, it kind of came back later on in the film. He's just like, you never want to be in this guy's debt. Now you're in his pocket. Now he wants you. Like he's like, I never want to be in that position, right? So you said, it was a little foreshadowing of what was to come, that they were going to end up in that very position that Jason Statham didn't want to be, right? But I think Jason Statham plays it very cool in this film. Like he's actually acting in this movie. You know what I mean? Like that's what's great, because he obviously went on to become like a big action star now, and you know, he acts, but it's kind of like in this film, like he's so laid back, like kind of that like his role is very good in this film. Like, but like he's just like a cool character, like you know what I mean? Like even with Bricktop, you don't see him really break a sweat, even though you can tell like he's like, oh fuck, like this guy, right? Like, but he's kind of, you know, it's his buddy that he's kind of like a little bit more nervous, right? Than
his more demeanor. He's more like, he's cool, calm, because he knows that he owns you after you owe him, right? That's what they said, that Bricktop is like, he owns you. Jason Statham says he owns you. After you owe him, if you tend to owe him stuff, right? But so no, great. That was a great scene, that intro scene there. Like just him. I don't know how close it was to an intro scene, but yeah, that first sort of scene there where they start talking, they bring in Bricktop and they talk about who he is, and they start, you know, bringing out the basically the synopsis of each character, really. Just a little, they give you that little quick throwdown of everybody, you know, like Boris, Tommy, when he explains him and himself, like when he's explaining who him and Tommy are trying to. And I didn't really get what they were doing at first, but yeah, no, I mean, that was a good scene there. I mean, I also liked the one where they, you know, when they're driving with your buddy there, what would you call it? Tommy. Tommy, Bullet Tooth Tony there, when he's driving with the guy's car stuck in the head. His head stuck in the car window, and they're driving down the street, and he's driving, and they're making it go faster. I keep forgetting that he was actually driving, because it was on his side too, right?
Yeah, because it's England, right?
Yeah. It kept throwing me off, right? That was one part of the movie that kept throwing me off, was that, you know, is the car's on the wrong side of the road, buddy. But yeah. There was quite a few. I mean, I don't want to steal them all from you. What did you have as another scene?
Yeah, I likewise, I had the Bricktop intro. Great scene, great way to start it off, right? I also wrote down the Brad Pitt Pikey's intro, the intro to those characters. Basically, the whole scene of him going there to buy the caravan, and then him getting tight, like, you know, they basically screwed over, as you know. I know people like you know. I don't know if it's politically correct now. I'm about to say this about gypsies, but they basically will rip you off, right? So basically, there's that whole narrative about don't trust these people. You can't understand. And that's what works for them, is you can't understand half the time what they're saying to you, they were saying. So like sometimes they'll be talking you into some deal that you're not even really aware of. And next thing you know, you're sitting there and they owe them a caravan, right? And that was that was a good ongoing joke throughout the film. Because every time it came back to that, Tommy would be like, we were the ones that were supposed to be buying a caravan. Like, and then like the caravan kept getting bigger. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
why are we giving him the caravan? Like, what are we doing? The caravan had to change everything. Like, they had to go through what they needed for his mom.
So the whole intro of him going there with his boxer, trying to buy the caravan, and him getting knocked out, and basically just setting up the storyline of him having to use Mickey as the the person that had to step in and box for them. There's the whole thing where they try to drive the caravan off the lot, and like the wheels fall off, and he's like, okay, so he's like, come on, Mickey, just take the caravan back and we'll be on our way. And he's like, what the hell, need a caravan with no wheels for? Whatever.
Hey, you do the accent pretty good there, bro. I can't.
Better get walking when you got some legs to walk on, or the hell. He's like, get out of here. It's St. Patrick's Day today too, by the way, guys. So there you go. The luck of the Irish. No, but it's just funny how he says that to him. He's like, get on here. He's like, you know, why do we need a caravan with no wheels, right? He's just like, come on now. So yeah, that's for me, that was a great intro to definitely a different like subculture in terms of like the gypsies and stuff like that, because you don't really see gypsies represented in movies like this, like, you know what I mean? No. So like that was,
they're still around. They're everywhere. They're just.
No, I know, and that's why now it's I guess frowned upon, like a lot of other things out there. I think to talk about them, I think in this kind of terms, right? Gypsies. So I don't even know if the word, I think gypsy is bad, apparently, right? Just
I don't even know, man. I wouldn't even know. I don't even know if it's a race, if it's a religion, if it's just a culture.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So in this film, though, they're called pikeys. So
Yeah.
they live out in in the fields of, I guess, someplace in London, and yeah, this is these guys, Nicky and his crew there. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there, right? So
Well, you don't realize they pop up slowly.
But that's the thing. Yes. But that's what was great too, is that moment where the boxer gets knocked out by Mickey in like one punch, and they're seeing the music drown it out. Like you don't hear the characters, but Tommy is sitting there like looking like nervous, like and he's like, yeah, what Tommy didn't realize was like how fucked he was in that moment if they had a problem with him getting out of there like alive, right? That's what like the narration of Jason Statham was saying. He's like, yeah, he was by himself now with all these guys, and they're all rowdy, and he's just like, oh shit, like, you know what I mean? Like they just lost like this thing, you know. He's stuck out there in the middle of nowhere, right? That's why when Jason Statham has to like, you know, it's just funny how he's like.
I think he said too.
Yeah.
Like he thought that the guy, he goes, if Buddy doesn't wake up now. I don't know if his name was Boris. It seems like everybody's name was Boris, the fighter guys, but
Gorgeous.
But
Gorgeous
George. There you go. If he doesn't wake up, then they're not gonna mind burying a second body along with instead of explaining why the first one's there, right? So I was just dying when I heard that. I was like, oh fuck! So this guy's not gonna wake up already? He's killed somebody with one punch. I'm thinking, how the hell do you have a punch like that, right? And then you find out he's a what do they call him, a bare knuckle
boxer? Yeah,
So.
But that was a stupid move on their part. Like when he goes back to Jason Statham, and he's like, why would you put our boxer who's about to fight up in a bare knuckle boxing match? Are you stupid? He's like, the size of this guy, he's twice the size. He's just like, really? Like, why would you do that? Like, yeah, and I agree. There was a lot of stupid moves made in this film, but I mean, we'll get into the other group of characters that I think are the most stupid in this film, and that's unfortunately the guys that own the pawn shop, the black guys. I think they made the most mistakes in this movie. Those guys,
they're the funniest, man. Though I think they're fucking hilarious.
Great characters. That's what I mean. You needed them in the film. But yeah, those are guys that should not be involved in all of this business. In my opinion, they just were built like some of these other characters that they're dealing with, right? So, but anyways, yeah, go on. What else did you have written down?
Oh, I got a lot. I mean, even the part where you first get introduced sort of to those guys there, the pawn shop guys. They're in the car. They're in a stolen car, right? Yeah. And they're driving to go see the bookie.
The bookie scene. That's what I have written down. The failed robbery, essentially. Yes. Great.
Oh my god, it was fucking hilarious, dude. I didn't realize what was going on. Right? I guess some good quotes came out of that one too. We'll get into that, but yeah, no, that scene was a great scene. You know what I thought was a really weird scene for me, but I mean, it was a good scene. Is that the dogs chasing the rabbit? I didn't know what the fuck that was a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I have that written down here too. Is the rabbit and dog race? Yeah, because that was one of the things that Mickey
fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Proper fuck. Yeah, yeah. That was the thing. That was one of the outs I guess Mickey had given them. If the dogs caught up to the rabbit, he would do the fight, and they wouldn't owe him the new caravan or whatever. He would just do it for free or something, right? Because he fucked them the first time around because he knocked Buddy out right away, and he was supposed to fall down in like the 4th round, right? And of course that didn't happen. But yeah, so that's I
don't think any of the dogs got the rabbit, so I think he says, "Okay, I'll do it for free." Right?
No. He didn't. They didn't get him. If the dog did get it, he would have did it for free. That was the thing. That's the thing. Okay, so that's why at the end of that scene, he turns to him and he hits that piece of paper because he has the magazine with the caravan. That's why he's like, okay, yeah, get me.
She prefers blue. Yeah, she prefers blue.
That's the whole reason Bricktop retaliated, because he said, "I'm not fighting again." Right?
I mixed that up. I remember how that happened. Yeah, now.
I mean, that's a great. That in itself was a great scene because depending how you kind of took that scene, you know what I mean? Like it all kind of ties back together at the end of the film. But yeah, I guess the jump ahead here, that scene, the way it ended in the film, is Bricktop goes and kills his mother, Mickey's mother, in the caravan, burns it down with her in it.
Sleeping, yeah.
And he doesn't take it maybe the way you thought he would take it. Like, he gets fucked up, gets drunk with all his family at the Irish wake, essentially, as they say, right at the funeral, and shows up to fight all hammered the day after, right? Like the one where he's supposed to finally throw the fight. Of course, what they, unbeknownst to Bricktop, they kind of were waiting for them outside in the parking lot, all him and his pikeys. They basically killed Bricktop at the end of the film. And that was like kind of like it all kind of coming together with that storyline. But that was the thing, like Jason Statham mentions, as he's like, yeah, because they kind of freeze frame, and he's like, yeah, you see this stupid look on our faces right here because we think we're gonna get killed. He's like, yeah, Mickey didn't look like that because Mickey knew what was about to happen, and that's basically because they thought because he didn't throw the fight once again that they were gonna get killed by Bricktop. And that wasn't the case. That Mickey kind of had the drop on Bricktop at the end of the film because he killed his mother, right? And then being that they're gypsies, they basically just packed up in the middle of the night and fucked off somewhere else, right? That's what he said. You would never find the bodies. Like, you would never find them. You would never find the bodies. Like, they'll just be on their way, right? They travel. So so that was a pretty. The first time I watched the film,
scene where they all came together, right? Like everything at the end, where it kind of all makes sense to you right after.
That's a great scene. And then another one of the ones I have written down here is again, Bullet-Tooth Tony's introduction. Like, just like that whole introduction about him, like, just being such a force, and then you see him like in this scene from his past with hair, by the way, Vinnie Jones with hair, which you rarely ever see. He's got like a wig on or something, I don't know, not just very short hair, or he has like long hair. He walks in, like, get some, I don't know, karaoke bar or something with a Japanese guy, and he's got a samurai sword that he pulls out, and the guy shoots him like a few times, right? And I guess that's why they call it Bullet Tooth. Like, he basically shot him like in the mouth or in the
six times or something. He said, yeah.
So that introduction of that character and him kind of into the film, that was a great scene for me as well. Just because they don't really fully get into it, they kind of explain his past to you, like with that little scene, and that Madonna song is playing at that moment. And then when he's in the car again, like the scene that you mentioned when he's dragging the guy for information in the window, he turns on the radio and that song's playing, and he's like, "Oh, I love this tune." He's like,
yeah, dude, that song. They paid over $1 million at the time to fucking just use that for that thing. Yeah, maybe that's why she decided to date him after. Who knows?
Maybe that started their relationship, right? Like him getting in contact with her people. I wouldn't be surprised, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. No. Anyways, I had that one written down too. You got anything else there?
I have when they burned down Mickey's mom's, and they had that, and she was sleeping in it too, right? But they had that like Irish wedding too. I had that same thing. I mean, we're pretty much going over all the scenes here, and what else do I got written down? There's not much else I had written down for that. We've pretty much said a lot of them that I had written down. Like when the three stories, when he explains to the black guys about when Tony explains to the guys about the wide big balls of the mincy, what does he call them? Mincy fucking small balls. Like, he was explaining what they had, fucking tiny balls. I don't know what the hell he called it. He called it.
You just I was gonna end with that. Yeah, you just said my favorite scene is the one where the black guys go in with the guns.
Guns, yeah.
With the guns. And he basically calls them, he's talking about big dicks, balls, and like pussies like them, and basically like he compares them, and he's like, see how your gun says replica,
yeah.
And mine says Desert Eagle 5.0. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's my favorite scene, I think, in the whole movie, because along with that, which this is, also in my favorite quotes, is this whole monologue, the whole speech he makes to them at that point. That's what makes it the best scene and kind of quote for me, is that part right there. That's my favorite scene, I think, of the movie, because every time I watch it, I just got like a huge grin on my face. I'm like, yeah, this part's hilarious. Just like how stupid he makes them look and how cool and calm he is. And at the end of that whole speech, it's so fuck off. Like he just basically tells him
Oh, God, yeah.
and they sit there having a pint, just like,
Yeah.
get out of my face, man. Yeah.
No, he was a funny guy, a funny character, even though he wasn't into too much. You know what I mean? Uh, so even though there's some little parts with it is even some of those little parts with Avi, Uncle Avi too. I mean, he played some, but I have him more, I think, for quotes and stuff. I have some quotes from him and stuff like that. But he played a good character too as well. I don't know his name in real life. Hold on, I got to look right here. Dennis Farina.
Yeah. So it's between that one that you said, the Billy Tony in the bar, or the Bricktop preparing the execution in the next room with those pawn shop guys. Like when he goes in there and again, this is both of those scenes for me, quotes and scenes. Those are my favorite. Is those two, like where he's like where he's explaining like who he is when he walks in. Like, do you know who I am? Like he's like, yeah, like he's basically, and he goes through how to hide a dead body with the pigs. And
that was the craziest,
right? Meanwhile, in the other room, he already has his men in there with their driver, all right, Tyrone.
Yeah.
That silly fat bastard, Tyrone. Because remember,
the guy who cut my hair, man.
Yeah, so they have him tied up in the other room, and they have all the plastic down on the ground, and they're gonna basically execute them, right? And then they basically get ushered into the room. All of a sudden, they're like, the one guy that owns the pawn shop is like, I don't know who you fucking are. Like, what are you doing here? And then all of a sudden, some guy like comes in and like hands him like a tea, and he's just sitting there drinking his tea. You're just like, what's going on? So they're just so puzzled, and then they go to the next room, and this whole time, like they got like the plastic all over the place and sharpening the knives, and they're just like, how scary would that be? You're just like, oh fuck! Like you just walk in the other room, you're just like, we're dead. Like this is. Meanwhile, they're preparing for your burial in the next room. And what he was describing to him about feeding him to the pigs, that's what was going to happen to them, right? If they didn't tell him where the diamond was. That was the whole deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, who robbed the bookie? Sorry, if they didn't tell him who was robbing his bookie. He wasn't really aware of the diamond at that point, I think, until it was his storyline. That's the other thing. His storyline was a little bit different. Like he was the antagonist, just as Jason Statham's character in Tommy. Well, I keep just calling him Jason Statham, but what's his name in this?
Turkish,
yeah, and Tommy. But anyways, yeah, I guess with that though, we'll get into quotes because we're already talking about some of our favorite ones here. Yeah, there's some great ones.
For a boxer.
There's some great ones. Come on, Jay, tell everybody your favorite quote. You like Dags? Dags?
Yeah, Dags.
Dags? 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 Yeah, and he's like, oh, dogs. Yeah, I like Dags. Yeah.
I like Dags. It's fucking going off.
You guys like Dags? He's mad. That's what
my is who? Is mine. They all fucking repeated everybody in that scene there, you know? Let me go talk to the boys.
Ma, yeah.
All right, give me a caravan. No.
Or when he's hammered, like, at the end there, and they're trying to like or he pissed off. I forgot which. I think he's hammered at that point. This is after like the thing, I think it was his mother. And like, or when his mother's trying to grab him, or his boys, and he's like, fuck off. He's like, fuck off. He's like just mumbling, come on, fuck off.
Fuck out. You know what happens when you get into fights? He's trying to get him into the thing where he's you're a boxer. Huh? What do you say? How does he say it? You box? You look like you box.
Yeah.
No.
You look like a boxer.
No. Oh man, he's got a lot of quotes. The problem is with his quotes, they're so hard to fucking. I was trying to figure them out as I'm writing them down. That's why I had to put the subtitles on at one point because I wanted to write some of them down, right?
Well, there's a lot of accents going on, so if you're not used to watching like movies and stuff with certain people, you might some things may have gone over your head too, right? Like, but so I hear you, but I think at this point, enough times, like there's a lot of Cockney accent type stuff going on. There's like a lot of different, there's Irish or whatever, gibberish. I think English, Scottish, I think at some point, right? So you got all kinds, right? So
What else you got?
I like the start where him and Turkish and Tommy are checking out the caravan, and he's like, "Oh, well, what's wrong with this one?" Like, nothing, Tommy. It's tip top. I just don't like the color. And he goes and grabs the door off of the actual caravan when he goes to open it. Like the whole door comes off of it. That one always stuck. Like he's got
That's the free when they decide they want the caravan, the new office.
Yeah, he's like, "Why do you need a gun for it, Tommy? The Germans?" Like he just like that whole thing. Like his Jason Statham's got some like again, like he's more of the low key character, but he's got some great lines in this too. Like as he's talking with Tommy, yeah, he's gonna go bust a cap, Tommy, when he's talking about going to get his gun and stuff like that. I liked all of their kind of exchanges, Tommy and Jason Statham, right? But that one's that one's pretty funny. Or how long those what does he say about the sausages or whatever are gonna take? He's like, how long is it gonna take? You're like 5 minutes, Turkish. He's like, he said that 10 minutes ago. And there's like that old man like just cooking the sausages like in the corner. You're just like, what the hell? Like, come on, Tommy, you know about caravans. You spent the summer in one. who better to go and buy a caravan? Yeah, no, I'm paraphrasing with some of those ones, but those quotes, a lot of small throwaway exchanges between him and Tommy and Turkish, the character, those were all really fun for me. I remember those. Like as I was going through the movie, watching it this time, there's certain quotes I know, like while I'm watching it, I'll say it, right? Because I've just seen it so many times, and those ones always get me, the Turkish ones. What else did you have?
Yeah, Tommy, when Turk and Tommy where they said, "Who took the jam out of your donut?" Right, and Tommy said that to Turk. He goes, "Who took the jam out of your donut?" And then Turk says, "You did." Yeah, you took the fucking jam out of my donut, Tommy. You did. Yeah. That was near the end, and they kind of like got us upset with each other.
Yes.
But I also like those the guys in the car, man. I mean, when he first backed into the van, right? He goes. Tyrone says, "I didn't see it there." Right? What does Vinny say? Vinny says, "Well, it's a 4-ton truck. It's not as if the pack of fucking peanuts, is it?" It was a funny angle, right?
Yeah.
It's behind you, Tyrone. Yeah. Whenever you put reverse, things come from behind you.
It was a funny angle. Yeah. That
one. He didn't even look forward. He didn't even look back.
Yeah. I like the other one too, where they go, what's his face? Again, there's so many names in this guy. Is that Doug the Head, the guy that the American originally, he's his buddy, Doug the Head, the guy who everybody goes to the pawn jewelry, right? The old guy who thinks he's Jewish, who isn't Jewish at all. They went on to say that, like, he's like, yeah, he thinks he's Jewish. He tells his kids they're Jewish. He acts like it's because he's a jeweler in England, right? So he's trying
that would kill me, yeah.
Right. So obviously with the whole Diamond District and stuff like that, which of course I guess we failed to say at the start of this movie. The plot is at the start of this film. They steal a diamond. Frankie Four Fingers, played by Benicio del Toro, they steal a huge diamond, and basically he goes to England to fence it, to basically sell it.
On and off, yeah.
Told like that's where he could sell it. Like he has somebody who's an interested buyer, and that kind of sparks. Something happens with him in England. He gets killed. The diamond, goes into everybody else's hands, bouncing around all these different people that become aware of it. And the American guy, Avi, goes there to track it down. And then, it kind of just goes off from there. And then you got this whole other subplot going on with the well, I guess the main kind of plot of the story more so is the Turkish and Tommy storyline, which is them being guys who have
range boxing fights.
Yeah, range boxing matches, and also have
legal ones.
Yes. They become into this guy's favor because he's supposed to throw a fight, one of their fighters, Gorgeous George, but they don't end up throwing the fight because he gets knocked out by Mickey, as we just explained, and it kind of just goes from there. And then they become in his debt, and things go off the rails, right? So yeah, that's the other storyline. That's kind of like the main storyline, if you want to say there's one, because they open up the film. Jason Statham's narrating it. It ends with like, it's kind of, if you want to focus on two characters, it's mostly about Tommy and Turkish, this movie, but then everybody else kind of becomes part of it as well due to this Diamond storyline. So it's kind of, those are the two big storylines going on, and then you got all these different stories going on with all the different characters and their relationships with each other.
Well, that's what I mean. You don't even realize which one's the main one near the end, almost, because the way they blend in, right? Like the way he slowly brings them in throughout the movie, which is actually kind of cool that he did it that way, right?
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is when there's all those kids in front of his jewelry place in England, and he's like, what are you guys all doing in front of the store? He basically says to them, and he's like, well, it's a free country, ain't it? He's like, well, it ain't a free show, is it? So fuck off. They're all like looking in the, they're all standing in front of the shop, and he just like tells them like to beat it, basically, right? So that one is always I always like that one. It's all like these younger kids, and he's just like, what are these like doing in front of my store, right?
What about an Abby finds out that his nephew there, what's his name or whatever his name, Tommy, is it might be going to the boxing match, right? So he's worried. So
Frankie
Four
So
sorry, Frankie Four Fingers might be going to the boxing match, and Abby goes, they go, where you going? I guess the secretary, your buddy, said, where you go? He goes, what do you say? London. You know London? London fish and chip, like it's London fish and chips, cup of tea, bad food, worse weather.
Mary fucking Poppins. London, yeah, that was a good one. Or when he shows up and he's like, sit down and shut up, you big bald fuck. He's like, because he gets there and he's like, Abby. He's like, because he's pissed. He's like, listen, I don't like leaving my country. He's like, let's get that straight right now. I don't want to be here. Like, because he, and then there's that scene of him even going to London. They do it 3 times throughout the film. Like when he's like, okay, I gotta go. So he gets his passport stamped, and then they cut to the scene of him taking the shot on the airplane and taking off. And then he shows up in London. Then when he leaves London, it's the same thing. And when he gets there, when you have to claim everything, like going back into the country, and they're like, anything you want to claim? He's like, yeah, don't ever go to fucking London. He says,
that's what he said. Don't fucking go to London.
Or England, or no, it was London. Yeah, he just
it was London. I always threw me off too, because I didn't know because they kept saying London, but I think that's the easiest way to get everywhere from there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It goes hand, but you're right. Sometimes it would be England or English, and it would be London. Yeah, they said all kinds of different things, but that's why I wanted to get the quote right. That was. He had some good ones. You're right with his scenes, absolutely. And yeah, like I just wrote down Brad Pitt's dialogue, whatever that was, and then like I didn't want to get like half the shit you can't even understand. Bro. But the Dags and the Ma one are my favorite ones.
When he first comes off the toilet there, whatever he's doing, taking his shit behind the car. I think he was taking his shit behind the car there when they all first come there, and the kids are trying, when they first pull up in the Jeep. And they're saying how they hate pikeys and this and that, and they're looking for him, but they couldn't find him, and he's in there behind and he says a bunch of stuff in that whole beginning sentence. But even when I was looking at it on with the subtitles, dude, it wasn't able to fucking tell me half the things they were saying in that little paragraph. It was hilarious, man.
It's gibberish, right? Like it
really is.
Yeah, and then again, I have the
Boris the Wade had a good one.
Yeah. Boris had some good ones. I liked. I didn't write down the whole spiel here. I can pull it up and say it for everybody, but we did already previously talk about it in favorite scenes. It's the whole Bricktop explaining how to get rid of a body, and it basically the line that always stuck out of that monologue to me is basically him talking about the pigs. Is like they will go through bone like butter, like when he's talking about how like they'll eat the bones, right? Like that was the one that always kind of stuck out to me. But the whole speech he makes at that scene is again, I didn't write the whole thing down, but that part, and then basically the other part that always stuck out too is like when he asks him, like, do you know what nemesis means?
Yeah. He explains that whole thing
of nemesis, like, basically like bad guy, like, that's a thorn in somebody's ass, essentially. Like he basically, not in so many words, he actually gives like the official definition of it, but yeah, like, a villain usually is your nemesis, like somebody that's always going to be your a pain in the ass to you, right? Like the person out there that's your nemesis. Like you guys are always going to be, at each other's throats, right? So I liked that scene a lot. Again, and those quotes were great too. And again the Bullet Tooth Tony scene where he talks about the Desert Eagle and all that. And
Frankie Four Fingers had a weird one. I don't want to get into it. That's the whole biblical scholars mistranslating the Hebrew word, right, for young women and virgin. That one I won't get into. I mean, if they want to look it up, that was where he was describing. They turned it into the young woman into the Greek word virgin. But how is it possible? Because I mean, if you can't have kids, it was weird. How did she have a kid if you know what I mean? How could she bear kids? And
is that what does he say that at the start when they're robbing the place? Like, as he's a Jewish guy still? I mean, he's always Jewish, but like as he's disguised as like the Hasidic Jew, is that when he says that part at the start of the movie?
Yeah, there's nothing crazy because he even says about young women into virgins, which is pretty easy to mistake. What does it say here? I didn't want to read the whole thing. I had that one there, but you know which one too? Vinny and Tyrone. Why are we stopped here? What's wrong with that spot? It's too tight. Too tight. He looks across the scene and he goes, "You can what do you say? You can land a jumbo jet in there." The fucking spot was like 10 cars long, and he was afraid.
They're like, "This guy's our getaway driver." He's like, "Don't worry, he can move when he wants to, when he needs to, or whatever." And like the whole, anyways, this is a massive fucking guy, by the way. And like him trying to wiggle out of the car when he gets, he takes like 2 minutes to like wiggle out of the car when he gets, but it's true when Buddy, when they're outside casing the joint and like he's outside waiting for them after the robbery horribly goes wrong with the bookies, right? They're made to look stupid, those two characters. And meanwhile, Buddy sees Frankie Four Fingers' body, right? He drags him after they bump into the car and it kind of gets, open. Like he's like, "Who's out of the trunk?" He's like, "Oh, it's a guy with 4 fingers in a briefcase," or whatever, right? Like, so like, meanwhile, like when they had to boogie there, like as they get in the car and they had to drive off, it's true. The guy got out, got the body, was back in the car and ready to go in like 2 seconds. That's why what was kind of funny about it too was like he said that, and then he kind of when the heat was on, he actually did kind of get it together and kind of sped off, right? So I like that scene a lot, that one, but yeah, that's.
Turkish even said that too when they were in that boxing thing. Turkish said a good one too, and he said, I think he said it to Boris, if I'm not mistaken, but he said, "You show me how to control a fucking wild fucking gypsy, and I'll show you how to control an unhinged pig feeding gangster."
Yeah.
All right, and that was good because it's true, because they wanted to have him controlled and have him knocked down he wanted to be down by the 4th round, but I mean, this guy wasn't going to let that happen.
Right. And then also the last one I have written down here that I really enjoy is when they're explaining about Avi is talking to Bullet Tooth Tony, and then when he finds out that Boris is involved in all this, it's like the one person he's like, "Ah, fuck that guy," right? Like he's gonna be tough, right? Kind of thing, right? So he's like Boris the Bullet Dodger, aka Boris the Blade. They say earlier in the film too. He's like Boris the Bullet Dodger, and he's like, "How come they call him the Bullet Dodger?" "Because he dodges bullets, Avi." Like and they gotta say that, right? And you think it's just a name. And then, like, later on in the film, the guy gets shot like 8 times or something, right? Or like, supposedly he gets shot or dodges them, maybe, right? But you got to suspend a little bit of disbelief at that scene of the movie. Like, there's definitely some things going on in the film where you're kind of like, okay, there's no way that this would have happened, right? Like, it gets a little bit wacky, but I like it still. I think it works. I like his character a lot, yeah. But it's funny because in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, there's a similar character that's kind of like Boris, not in like the way he acts or something, but just like because he's like the Russian that kind of has connections all over, right? And everyone doesn't like. And in the Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, it's a Greek guy. So like it's just interesting. Like comparing the two movies, there is a lot of similarities in the types of characters that you see, right? But I think like I said earlier, Snatch, he kind of perfected the formula. Where Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, I think, just kind of, he was just trying to figure it out at that point. But yeah, I mean, that's that for quotes. That's kind of what I got written down. But that's I don't know if you have anything else there that you're reading off of IMDb there.
Uh, you have any idea why they call him Frankie Four Fingers? Doug, that's what he says. That Avi says that. You have any idea why they call him Frankie Four Fingers?
Gambling,
He
yeah.
makes stupid bets with stupid people, with dangerous people. That was another one too. But you know, when Boris bought the gun, sorry, when Boris was saying reliable, you know, you can fucking throw it at him if you have to, right? Because he was talking about the weight of the gun, right?
Tommy's gun that he bought, but turned out to be a fucking faulty gun, right? Like
yeah, he was shooting it out the window, didn't even work.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah. No, I had a few, but like really, I mean, we kind of went through quite a bit of them there.
Yeah,
right. We went through that whole movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of the quotes for me in this film are what makes the movie. Honestly, obviously all the different types of characters make the movie and the type of movie it is, but the quotes like the script was really well written. I thought the quotes were really all top notch. Even the throwaway scenes, a lot of the dialogue in this film was great. So that's kind of what I wanted to spend the most time on, and it seems like we did anyways. Like the scenes, yes, there is some great big scenes, but the scenes, like most of the time we talk about this, are connected to such memorable moments, like with quotes, right? Like with those speeches that they have, like the monologues of certain characters that go on. And again, yes, those two things do go hand in hand, is like the perfect scene and the perfect kind of, you know, moment for that character and what he says in that moment. But I think this one's more made up of the quotes, because even like the throwaway lines, like the things that make us laugh that we just kind of talked about, like all the gibberish from the gypsies, or even, like I said, like the bullet dodger kind of comment, just these little throwaway lines. This is definitely one of those films filled with it. And as you can tell from probably a lot of the movies we talked about on the show so far, guys, you know, I eat that stuff up. Like Jay knows, like, yeah, I love those quotes all day. Like
you could, and that's why you're so good at with the accent too. I don't know, man. You just sort of remember them off the top of your head. Like I have to hear somebody saying the accent before I can repeat it, right?
Yeah. But as I've said it so many times, and not to say that, you know, this is probably the best job I've done here tonight of them, but yeah, that's you know, but I already know in my head kind of how they sound when they're saying these things, in a sense, just because I've seen the movie so many times. I know the quotes, right? So but yeah, so let's get into like some of the other categories here for assigning actors some awards here with the favorite performance, our favorite performance of the film. You want me to start this one off, or you want to do the honors?
Go ahead.
I think I can guess what yours is going to be. I had a little trouble with this because, again, analyzing the film this way and not just sitting there watching it and enjoying the experience was a little different in that they have all such bit parts throughout the film. Not just bit parts, like there's people that are, you know, in a lot of scenes throughout it, but it's such an ensemble cast. It's hard to kind of give it to one person as favorite performance, because there's several performances in this movie I really, really enjoy. Like I could make the argument for a few of these guys, right? But it's not favorite character. So I felt somebody who was not over the top in this film, that played it very laid back early in his career, was doing some great acting in this film. Really, he kind of played the part he needed to play in this, and I think he did a wonderful job. And I gotta give it to Jason Statham, honestly. And you know, I the only other person I guess you could try to make an argument for, but again, I think it was more based on the fact I enjoy the character, and maybe because of his star power. And if you say it is your favorite performance, then I can't disagree with you. But the only other person I could probably maybe make an argument for, well, like I said, I can make an argument for a few people, but I was kind of head to head between these two would be Brad Pitt. But Brad Pitt doesn't really like this was more of the better job, I think, as an actor in this film. I thought this was the better part, is Jason Statham's part in this. He narrated the film. You know what I mean? Like he was in majority of the film, but like it wasn't over the top. It wasn't like a flashy performance. You know what I mean? So like I think that's why he would kind of get lost in the mix to some, like maybe some people wouldn't even consider him. There you go. Yeah. Richard, Mr. Paul Blart here. He said Brad Pitt, but because I think everybody just points to Brad Pitt, like, oh, And if that's your, and if that turns out to be your favorite performance, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. But I think for me, it was a lot of it was just like, hey, look, it's Brad Pitt in this film. That's awesome. And look at this awesome character he played, and he's funny as this character. But yeah, it's not for me. I think I got to give it to Jason Statham. I actually thought he did a really great job in this movie, so I got to give it favorite performance to him.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. He had a great performance, but I still don't believe that he, in the sense of performance, I think maybe I'm still gonna. I would say the actual performance in a movie and acting wise, I think was more of a Brad Pitt thing. Because I mean, he had to do a lot more different. I mean, I'm not saying it because it's Brad Pitt. I'm just saying, you know, he was at a great part in his career and his whole life at that time. Like I don't know, he just came off of Fight Club. Wasn't the Fight Club after, before this one? If I'm not mistaken, he had just come off of Fight Club, so he was hyped up. He was off of just coming off a roll of movies then at that
Absolutely.
point.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we mentioned that. Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm not denying that, but I think for me, if I was going to pick him, that was going to be probably most of the reasons why I would, you know what I mean? I wanted to pick him. Believe me, it was between him and Jason Statham, but I ultimately went with Jason Statham for those reasons. I thought it was just a cop out for me to pick him, just because like he's a role I like in this, and that he was really big at this time for me.
Well, and I had like in my head of a list of things that I was thinking in my head that they had to do in their performance for them to and I think from everything from action to sadness to making you laugh to, you know what I mean? Brad Pitt was doing it all in that movie if you think about it. Jason Statham, not so much the action part. I mean, he was there, he was telling the story, he was in the whole movie. He was. I mean, if I had a narrator credit, I mean, I'd give it to him, obviously. but
that's what I like about it, though, because Jason Statham went on to become like more of an star now. In this movie, he actually had to like interact with a lot of different characters and work off of them like on the screen and actually act. Where I feel now it's kind of like now he's like more of an action star now, and you don't see
he barely talks.
So I think between this movie and even more so in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, he's one of the main characters in that movie. I just think it's a very different Jason Statham at an early part of his career, and I liked it. Like I liked what I saw, like revisiting it this time, and But yeah, I can't disagree with you for saying Brad Pitt though. That's a good pick.
You know, he was just cocky. He was just the way he did it, and in the end, he was the smart one out of them all. He had them all helping out, right? I mean, if you think about it, he had him and Jason Statham really set up. If you really think, I don't know, but we'll get into that because that's going to be an unanswerable question for me. But yeah, no, I just think at that part he played each one right. I mean, Jason Statham was nice. It was different seeing him in an actual film that he actually looked a lot younger in. He didn't look as big as he does. I mean, it looked like his friggin' suit didn't even fit him. It looked like his suit was one size too big in that movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, no, he played an excellent role too, and I like his narration of each character, and you know, I actually wrote down what he was writing and describing for each character in case I had forgot throughout the movie. Yeah. But yeah, no, he did. But I just think, you know, for the check marks and for the quotes that for the check marks that I had in my head of how I looked towards like you know, a performance, they kind of got to hit all those notches for me. You know, they got to make me laugh. They got to make me feel for them. You know what I mean?
Everybody has their own criteria, right? I mean, that's why we do this. So that's cool. I can't disagree with you because he was in the running for mine as well, right? But I think ultimately I gravitated more towards Jason Statham upon this rewatch. Years ago, I may have said the same thing because when I first saw this movie the first few times, Brad Pitt was probably my favorite character and my favorite performance at that time. But I think revisiting it this time around, I had a new appreciation for Jason Statham's role in this, just because, again, kind of what he went on to do after this, right? And I think you don't see him play characters really like he did, like more of the laid back guy, and like he did in this one, the kind of guy that he seems like he can handle himself in a situation, but he never really has to show off in this film in that regard, right? Like he's kind of most of the time he's just trying to protect his buddy Tommy from all the people that are like, you know, getting into their business and trying to guide him. But meanwhile, other than taking a bat to one of those guys that were, messing up their place after they said they weren't going to play ball with them in terms of Bricktop's requests, right? I mean, because Mickey refused them, right? Other than that, really, when he kind of, he kind of smacked a couple people with a baseball bat in that one scene. He's not a tough guy in this film. Like, he is in the sense he can handle himself, talk. You know what I mean? But he throw his weight around maybe, but he's not involved in any of the gangster crime type stuff that goes on in this film. So like,
I'm surprised.
Yeah, but that's what I liked about it. Like, that's what I like. And maybe that's more credit to the role, like the type of character that they actually cast him as in this film. And maybe because like it was at this part in his career early on. But yeah, just like I said, a new appreciation for him in this movie this time around. So
no, I get it. I totally I understand what you're saying. Like I said, I'm just used to him now because I've seen him in so many other roles. Same with Brad Pitt. I mean, maybe I between the two, because I was kind of comparing the two and which one I thought, right? Like, because if I was going to say main, like with the most like airtime maybe, or the most showtime, screen time, I might say Jason Statham if I went on it like that. But I don't usually go on it like that. I mean, there's like I said, I'm not trying to justify really why I'm picking Brad Pitt. I'm in love with him. That's what it is.
I know that's why you picked him, but yeah, we're just explaining. I'm just using that not to justify my pick, or just more so to explain my thought process of why I picked him, right? Like why I can, because I played with I had that idea of picking Brad Pitt at 1.2, right? I mean, that's a clear answer, honestly, but anyway. Yeah, so next up we got favorite cameo. So you started us off with that one. Hey, no worries, Rob, what's going on? How you doing?
Yeah, always late.
So favorite cameo, I gave this one because of the sheer amount of screen time he had in this film. I considered it a cameo of sorts because he wasn't in the movie all that much, even though he was one of the players in this game, in this movie, in the credits and everything, is Benicio del Toro. I gave this to him because I think, like, in the few scenes that he was in, I think he's always an interesting character when he shows up. I wish he was in the movie more, like, from the amount that we saw him in the film. Like, his whole backstory about being a gambler, and like just like the scenes with him at the tailor talking to Avi on the phone, and just like the kind of his whole demeanor and stuff like that. Like, I liked him in this movie. And so he didn't have much screen time. He was really just at the start of the film. And, a little bit after the start of the film, they showed him again prior to him getting killed. So I kind of threw him the favorite cameo category for me for this one, just because I think he's a bigger actor, especially at this time, as I mentioned, coming off of like movies like Usual Suspects. And he's definitely one of those guys that's usually a character actor, of course. Like, he plays all these different types of weird characters usually in films. So for him being in the movie, just the little bit that he was, truly felt like it was a cool cameo for me.
No, yeah, he did. I was thinking of picking Benicio del Toro too, but the second time I watched it, I realized how funny that guy Tyrone was. He wasn't in the big parts of the scene. He didn't say much. He didn't have big roles. But I don't know if I want to say like a cameo in the sense of that, because I don't know where the hell I've seen. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else, to be honest with you.
Funny? You want to hear something funny? So what I learned from watching that Guy Ritchie thing on YouTube once again is that this is a guy that he just knew from the neighborhood. It's not an actor that he put in the film. Like, this is apparently a guy where he's like, that's a guy, that type of character, like just the way this guy is. If I make a movie one day, I'm going to put this guy in the movie. So
he's just naturally funny.
When he wrote this character, he had this guy in mind. Like, he said he was just somebody from the neighborhood that he knew, Guy Ritchie. So he just decided to cast him in this role. If you look up his credit as an actor too, it's just his name.
Yeah, I was wondering why it didn't have a face.
It says Addy, A-D-E, right? So
yeah, it doesn't say anything on it. Like, I mean, I don't think he's in really anything else, right? I was looking. Like, he's okay. No, he's Formula 51, Casino Royale, but he's just small little things.
He's not an actor, right? Like, he's not a trained actor. Like, he must have got.
I think he's a background guy.
Yeah, so there you go. Like, so that I think that's what it's funny that you mentioned that, and it's funny where I went on to a category I went on to put him in that I didn't feel I felt justified when I learned that because I learned it after the fact. I just watched this movie like maybe that YouTube thing yesterday. So yeah. Anyways, yeah. Favorite cameo. There you go, guys. You picked Addy, the Tyrone, essentially. Yeah, the getaway
driver.
I
Well,
picked,
the one with actually all the brains, to be honest, out of all three of them, he was actually kind of smart if you thought about it. He actually said the smart things, even though they were only like little lines, But yeah, I know which category you're talking about, and I have somebody else in there because I couldn't figure out who the fuck for the life of me it was in the beginning, but we'll get into that.
No, it's not that guy award, if that's who you're referring to. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Yeah, so I picked Benicio del Toro, 4 fingers on that one. Okay, so that was the favorite cameo. Moving on. The overacting award. So you can start us off on this one. This is your turn now. Start us off with this one, Jay. Let's see if you got somebody here.
Well, I was debating on. There was two people. I mean, it was kind of funny that the way I played it out. Like I was trying to debate. I mean, obviously, overacting in general is always Brad Pitt. I always feel like he overacts. Okay, but I had named him in my best performance, right? So I mean, I was thinking,
we have said before, though, it doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. People like this is not always this. It depends how you look at it. Some people over actors is a bad thing, but I also feel sometimes I've given the award to the best performance before for overacting. I forgot what movie not too long ago I gave it to both because I said, yeah, he overacted in this, but he was also excellent in this movie, right? So like sometimes there's certain scenes I think, I think it was just for American Psycho. I had Christian Bale, but he was also my favorite performance. But who else is really going over the top like that in the scenes that he's in, right? So yeah, I had to give it. So it doesn't always necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes there is, cringy moments or accents in Brad Pitt's, you know what I mean, the case in this movie that some people have considered that. But I would never, I always don't associate it as a bad thing. Me personally, is that who you think though, Brad Pitt?
You know what? Yeah, I was thinking between him or just even Dennis Farina. I thought he does. It's just his acting style. The way he's yelling all the time and freaking out. So Cousin Avi, like, I mean, that's just his acting style. In other movies, I've seen him like that too as well, and stuff like that. But sometimes I mistake that for overacting too as well, in a sense, depending on the way I look. But I honestly think just because he tried so hard with the accent that he wasn't getting it right, and he, and even when he was in the fight, he was acting like that, jumping around. I thought he was overdoing it. Brad Pitt, Mickey, when he was into it. So I honestly, even though, like I said, I gave him the best performance, I still think he was overacting in that movie.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know how many other people were really overacting. I mean, I'd like to hear what you think about that one, because I was having a hard time.
There you go. I should get the award for best overacting for leaving late. Very good. Well, every once in a while, he has one good comment out of the 20, how many coffees and the same other bullshit that he puts up on the screen. Farhan, can you please not message me during the show as well, please? This guy's sending me private messages on Facebook right now while I'm recording the show about his stupid comments here. Did you really, fuck off with that kind of stuff? We're trying to do a podcast here, my friend. Sorry. Trying to do a video there, thank you for tuning in for the 2 minutes that you like to tune into these shows. But nice one. I got to give it up to you.
Right. Thanks for the comment, but fuck off. That's basically what you said.
Exactly. Just like in the words of Bullet Tooth Toady. So fuck off. Yeah.
Holy fuck. Oh, man.
There you go. Over the top. Yeah, you know what? I really struggle with this category. I didn't really have, to be honest with you, I didn't have one written down, but I did think of Brad Pitt. I did think of Mr. Farina there that you just mentioned. These are both people I did consider. The only other person I was considering, and I didn't actually I didn't make any of them final, was the guy who played Boris. I thought that at times he was a little over the top as well. But I think I'm going to give it to Mr. Dennis Farina now that you've kind of said that, because I don't want to give it to Brad Pitt for a second time. I think I already gave him an overacting award in one of the other things we've talked about already, if I'm not mistaken. But he absolutely is a major overactor. He's been criticized for that in his career. I know that. For the people that find that bothersome, but he's had plenty of great roles. But to spread it out, I'm going to give it to Farina, because I didn't have one written down because I couldn't decide. I was kind of interested to see what you had to say about it, but Farina is also one that I was thinking, so I'm going to go with that because you gave it to Brad Pitt. So I just couldn't, because these characters, the absurd ones, the ones that were a little bit over the top in this film, were just like at that point where, like, if you pushed it any farther, then there would have been like a lot of overactors in this movie. But I felt like they all kind of played it just right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's just because, the editing or what they kept, or like, it just, there was definitely some absurd characters in this film and over the top kind of performances, I think, with, like you said, well, with Farina freaking out and all this kind of stuff. But I'll give it to him. But I don't think there was a runaway winner for me on this one. If I had to give it to somebody, though, I guess I'll give it to him. But I don't think this was, I wasn't bothered, or it didn't stick out to me as much.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. Brad Pitt, even as the overacting award, I think it works. And I think he did a great job as that character, right? Matt Damon wasn't in this film. But thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming out.
Next up, let's see what's the next category here. What do I got here? Oh, here we go. Worst performance. So that was you. I'll start this one off then. This I gave this to your boy, Addy. And when I found out he wasn't a trained actor, I was like, okay. I felt better about that. As much as I liked his character and the moments he was in, he didn't really act all that much. Like, you know what I mean? You could tell he was kind of just there as a presence and like as a character, like in the scenes. And he had these little one-liners, but he wasn't great. Like, the other two guys really fed off of that character. Like, that character was really funny because the other two actors, the pawn shop guys that were in those scenes with him, to be honest with you, like, they were really the acting in those scenes was them. And then the guy every now and then would say like one thing, like the whole, it was at a funny angle, like that whole thing, like, right. Which was great. Don't get me wrong. But like, I was just like, clearly he didn't have the acting chops, I felt, as some of the other guys did in this film. So I gave it to him ultimately, because I felt everybody else did a great job. Like, I love every single character. I don't think there was a bad performance for me. But I got to give it to him in the sense that I don't think he brought it like everybody else did. But then when I found out he wasn't a trained actor, I felt really good about that, in the sense that I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense, right? because at first I was like, what's this guy doing on screen, right? He wasn't really doing much, right? But yeah, for a guy who's not a trained actor, good job. In that same sense. But again, this was another category where I'm like, I felt I had to pick somebody. I always try to pick somebody. But I enjoyed his moments. So this is kind of, again, this is just somebody I had to assign somebody. So I gave it to him. So Adi.
I don't know who I would pick out of this one, man. This is one I think in their, in all their own individual ways, they were all great performances. But if I wanted to be picky, I guess, and say something, I would say, I don't know. You know what? I didn't like. I don't get me wrong. I love Frankie Four Fingers. I love Benicio del Toro, but I don't know. I wasn't very, with his performance in the movie. I mean, maybe it was just because it was short lived, in a sense. But I wasn't really feeling it for him. You know what I mean? Like, in that sense. Like, I like him as a character, but I don't know. I don't like him as a fake Jew or whatever you want to call it. Like in that heist thing, and it wasn't my character, right?
He's kind of weird to nail down, though. Honestly, he's a weird actor. Like,
he is a weird actor.
Yeah. So like, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not going to argue that point, but I think it's hard to peg that guy down, honestly. Like, so like, I don't know. He's a strange guy. That guy. He's very eccentric. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I can't tell you if it was a good performance or not. That's why I feel about it, right? I'm just like, that's why I put him as cameo, because I'm like, hey, there's Benicio del Toro, right? But I don't think he's the best actor. I don't think he's the worst actor. He's fine, right?
I've
Like,
watched him in other good movies too, right?
absolutely. No, don't get me wrong. He's not, I wouldn't say he's a bad actor, but I don't think he's like the best actor either. He's kind of like in the middle for me. Like he's always like whatever, and then he got
He's more like a Viva Las Vegas kind of actor, you know?
in Las Vegas, yeah, sort of character, right? Which he was also very fucking weird.
He plays a lot of weird characters. He
That's
does.
what I mean. Yeah, he picks weird. He's got interesting choices. Let's just say that. But
I really liked him in that other one I told you about. I think one time, 21 grams.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was a great one. He was in that one. I thought that was good, but I don't think it was ever a movie one. I think that was more of a film festival movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it ever came out in theaters. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, no, that one was a great one too. But yeah, no, I just don't think as performance you couldn't judge it. Like you said, half the time you didn't even know if that was him underneath the mask.
That's fair. Yeah.
So
that's a good choice for sure. What else? What we got here?
Nitpicks.
Nitpicks is what you got next. Okay, go ahead.
I got those fucking gypsy accents, man. That's my biggest nitpick of the fucking movie.
The pikey accents, really? But
well, the accents, period. I hate accents in movies. I mean, sometimes they work for me, but most of the time they don't. I don't know what it is about accents in that sense, and I'm not trying to, but especially when their character's not playing, doing their act like their normal accent from real life, unless they can really nail it down.
Yeah,
it's hard, man. I mean, everybody in there. There's a few of them that weren't of I guess English background or Irish background or whatever, and they didn't have anything to do with that kind of accent. You could tell they were making it up, right? Like, I mean, but I'm pretty sure even when Benicio del Toro was acting like when he was trying to use his the Hebrew, I'm pretty sure they had no fucking idea what he was doing. Right? So there's a few of them, like Jason Statham, he's got no problem doing that accent. That's him, right?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So the accents period in this movie bugged you? I mean, this is
the gypsy one is the worst one, bro. It bugged me. It was just annoying. At some points it was annoying, and I'm wondering that if that's the way people hear me as a mumbler, fuck.
You wouldn't get those funny moments with Brad Pitt's character if it wasn't for that accent. And to be fair, I don't even know if that's their real accent. Like, you know what I mean? I think that was more something they made up for the film, right? Because they're supposed to be Irish, right? And I'm pretty certain, like, maybe there's
it wasn't Irish, it wasn't English, remember?
Right. But that's what I mean. I think that was more tailor-made to the fact that Brad Pitt couldn't do the accent. I think that's why they did that more so in the film, because that's what they were talking about in the thing I had seen. When in the video I'd seen with Guy Ritchie talking about the film. I think it was more trying to reinforce the fact that Brad Pitt wasn't doing a great job with the accent, that they kind of made up this whole like gibberish kind of, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that was more like what he brought to the table than anything, right? But maybe that is the case with accents of like people that are gypsies in London. I don't know, right? But it's interesting you found it annoying, though. I didn't find it annoying. I actually I enjoyed it.
Pick that I had, like, because I mean, I didn't understand. I would get some of the jokes, and then, like I said, until I watched it with the subtitles.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the jokes weren't coming across to me. I mean, he's talking so quick and so, like, okay, even if it is tailor made, it was still annoying, regardless if it was a real accent or not. I mean, it just, to me, it was a little bit of annoyance. The English accents, like I said, if they're not, I even have that same thing with characters that try to do just regular accents, like American accent or whatever, like that, when they're not American or Canadian or whatever, and that sort of no accent or whatever you want to call it. Everybody has their own accent, but I'm not a big fan when they try too hard. Like, let's say, for instance, like House, he tries too hard to talk like just a regular American, right? In that show. I know I'm going off with that one, but I'm just saying
that's called acting, though.
I know it is. So I'm pretty sure you can act without. I don't know, man. It bothered it. Maybe that was just my nitpick because I had to watch it 2 and 3 times. Because
House is English too, right? Like,
yeah, I know it is. You know what's funny too is even the other guy, like, man, from the Bates Motel, the kid.
Almost all these guys are. That's the thing. you understand though, the American accent or the English, not the proper English, the English, like whatever, like American, Canadian, whatever. That's the actors say that's the easiest accent to do, like the most basic accent that's very easy to do. Everything has to sound very pronounced, like and like like I've heard other actors from that aren't and I hear what you're saying because that bugs some people because they take a lot of roles that people that they're playing that aren't English, and you know you got a lot of these guys that do that kind of stuff, right? I remember the first time I found out like half the cast of The Wire was like English, and I was just like, really? Like I was like, the whole time you think all these guys are like the characters they're playing, but hey, that's acting, right? I hear what you're saying to a certain degree, but yeah, no, it didn't really bug me, but yeah, this is that's why this is your nitpick, right? Is that the only one you had written down, or
no, that and yeah, like I said, it kind of was a slow rollout at the beginning until they all started joining together. And I liked that part. I mean, it wasn't too much of a nitpick, but it was like, when's this? And then all of a sudden it picks up. The movie.
Yeah,
it came like out of nowhere, which I don't know if that was a meaning and how he's supposed to do it or what. But yeah.
No, I think that was by design.
But really, I mean, it was just an accent that really bothered me. I mean, the other stuff, not so much. I mean, there was nothing really that I can pick about that movie besides the not understanding it. So I have to watch it 3 times, and it's not, it's just myself, and maybe it's other people have no problem understanding the accents, but catching on, especially when they're doing it so damn quick, right? Yeah. Everybody is, right? So
yeah. I wrote down one of my nitpicks was the presence of, like, there was no cop presence in this film. Like, all this shit is going on in the street, even all the way down to the crashing of the cars with the fucking samurai sword going through that one guy that came with Avi, and all the crowds of like kids and women and stuff that like crowded them in the street, and they all got stumbling out of the cars, and then Buddy just like stumbles into a pub and sits down and has a pint, like Bluetooth Tony, like guns are going off, like people are getting killed, like, and there's no cop presence at all, right? So yes, it's fun because it gives them the liberties to like do the things that they did in this film, and you don't always need it to be super realistic in the sense like a cop's gonna pull up right away, because that would probably ruin the film in a way, right? But even like some sort of cop presence of some sort, or a reason as to why there was no cops maybe in that area of London that they were in or whatever, right, would make me feel a little bit better. So it was definitely one thing I felt watching it this time where I was like, really? Like, it's like there's nothing.
Well, they had that one right at the end, when you get it. That's the only time you get it. Right at the end, once the gypsies are gone, right? You get the guy putting his badge down. That's the only time you see the cops in that whole fucking film. And there was nothing even going on at that point. Yeah. No guns getting shot. No, the guy was just out walking his dog. Yeah. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, that's my only nitpick, though. Otherwise, I think the film's perfect the way it is. Like, I have no complaints. And then that's why this category is called nitpicks. It's really small things. It doesn't really affect my overall enjoyment of it. It was just something I noticed this time around where I was just like, yeah, it could have at least used, like, at one scene, maybe even reference a cop or something, right? But there was none of that at all. I know there was getaways, like there was moments where they had to like drive off even after they botched the bookie robbery, right? But it's not like a cop car, I don't think, pulled up, like nothing.
Yeah, you reversed right into the truck. You hit the truck and nothing. You smash into the truck. No cops coming around. Nobody saying anything on the street. Yeah. Maybe that's just the way it was. Maybe it's just nobody opened their mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It definitely made more of a fun film. Like, I think without the cops. Don't get me wrong, but it was just like.
Well, I even thought that first Jason Statham and stuff and Tommy at first were cops at one point, right? Because they're just the way they had the suits on it for a second, and then I clued in what they were doing. Because they said they're buying an office, but then I realized he said boxer bookie, right? Like bookie for boxers and stuff like that. So
yeah. Okay, so here we're getting into some of the big categories here first. Let's go to a couple of the smaller ones here first. Let's save these ones for last. We'll jump ahead here. The That Guy Award, or that person award.
That person, get it right.
Yeah, that person award. All right. I'll have to change that. This is the award that goes to the person who, like, you see in a film. You may not know the actor's name always, but you know him by looking at him. You know he's been in other things you've seen. One of those type of things, right? It happens so many times to us. So, to anybody, I think, who watches movies, like, oh yeah, that's that guy from that thing that I saw like one time. He was really good at it, but you don't know his name because he's not a headliner, right? He's not like somebody that people go to the movie to see, but he's like maybe a character actor who just pops up in a lot of things. Always does a great job, right? I gave this to this guy, Ewan Bremner, and that's the dude that Bullet Tooth Tony pulled into the car and pulled the window up to his neck and dragged him, right? And I mostly know this guy from Trainspotting. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him in other things. He was even in Wonder Woman, the first one. He's been in other films as well, too, that I've seen, but
Remember, a lot of these are like English movies and stuff that they're into. A lot of these are actors, right?
He's Scottish, and you could tell by his accent in this that he's Scottish too. And Trainspotting is in Scotland, so like that's why he was casted in that. Like, so, yeah, he's really good in Trainspotting though. Like he's really good in Trainspotting. And to see him in this movie, I always forget that he's in this, and that one scene is a really great scene. So when I seen him pop up in that, I had to give it to him for this one. I had another person I could have given it to as well. But I don't want to take it away from you in case it's the one you're going to hand it out to, because there's not really many that guys in this film you can give it to. I didn't feel like there was many. Like it was really between the two for me in this one. Like, anyways, go on. I'll tell you who it was after the.
Well, I probably, I don't know if you're going to say the same one as I did, but it's from your favorite show, Lenny James. Soul, Soul there. I didn't realize who he was at first, man, because that's his accent in real life. And it threw me off. And that's the guy from The Walking Dead.
Holy shit. I didn't realize that. That's him, eh? Wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
It's Morgan, man.
I didn't realize that was Morgan. You know why? Because he doesn't look as like haggard in this movie.
He's young.
Walking Dead. Wow. You just blew my mind with
20 years ago.
I did not realize that. I've seen this movie I don't know how many times. I've seen this movie before Walking Dead enough times. Don't get me wrong. But even upon this rewatch, I didn't notice that. Good pull. Fantastic. Yeah, no, I didn't notice that. Yeah, no, I didn't notice that at all. I didn't realize that was him.
I had to double check because the accent.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great.
And then I thought of it. I think this is Nico's favorite show. And I know it's not your favorite show anymore, but
no, not anymore. Yeah,
but yeah, you know what I was saying. Like I thought about it. I'm like, is that him? He looks so fucking young. But I remember them saying that he has an English accent. Like I remember in his interviews, he does have an English accent, right? Yeah. So it was him. I thought, fuck, man. I was like, all right, perfect. That's that guy award because that's the one that I first said. Who the fuck is that?
Yeah, absolutely, good one. No, that's great. That's the one. That's the cat. That's the one right there. Absolutely. I didn't realize that. Good pull. The other person I was going to give it to was Jason Fleming, who is one of the gypsies that he's with Brad Pitt. Like he's like one of his brothers or something. Like he's one of the main guys that's always standing behind him and talking and repeating like the words and stuff like that. In this, he's the tall, lanky guy. He's also in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, the first film, as one of the few main characters in that movie. And I've seen him in other things as well. But that was the only other contender for me that I was going to give to that person award, but I ended up ultimately going with Ewan Bremner. But good one. No, that's great. I didn't realize that. Wow, he's because this is I think the only other thing that I've seen him in other than Walking Dead, to be honest with you. So I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, because and that's the thing too. You haven't watched Walking Dead in a while either, right?
No.
He was on the Fear of the Walking Dead, and he was on The Walking Dead. So the Walking Dead made his fucking career, really.
And even if you think about it, he didn't really come back to Walking Dead after the first season until like 3 seasons later. Like he kind of went off and was working on other things.
From season 2 and then episodes season 6. Sorry, it came back or something like that.
Well, that's what I mean. So he had a long absence even from Walking Dead.
Not season 6, but. Yeah.
No, I know, but he had a long absence from Walking Dead before he came back, but then when he came back, he became one of the main characters, and like you said, he was the first guy to hop onto the other shows, the spinoffs, right?
So, he went on to the Fear of the Walking Dead, all that shit, right? Yeah. So,
good pull. No, that's awesome, man. Great. Yeah. That was the first time you got me on that one. what else we got here? Clutch performance, which I don't have written out here as I can see, but that's the one we sometimes forget. But a very important category for me, because a lot of the times the people, my favorite characters, or the people I couldn't fit in best performance, I usually like to put in this category. So this is the clutch performance. May not be on the screen as much as obviously one of the main characters in the film, but I think every scene that this character is in, this actor is in, he really kind of brings it. And so you want to start us off with this one? Do you have somebody for this, or
clutch performance?
Yeah.
This one here, I would say this is another one, like you said, that I didn't jot down. I was just looking.
I can start.
Yeah, go ahead, because I think I know who I want to say, but go ahead.
I put Vinnie Jones, Bullet Tooth Tony. For me, he was awesome in this film. I've seen Vinnie Jones in a lot of other movies. He always kind of plays like a bad guy or a soccer hooligan or something like that. I really like him as an actor. Whenever he shows up in something, I really enjoy seeing him. He was, like I said, he was in his previous film, Guy Ritchie, as well. Apparently just like the nicest guy, like isn't like his characters that he plays in the movies. And every scene he was in this, including one of my favorite scenes of the film, I had to give it to Vinnie Jones on this one. The only other contender I had for this, and maybe I'll shoot you an idea here. Maybe you should give
I think I know who you're gonna say.
It's the guy that played Bricktop. He was excellent in this film. Like, yeah, no, for me, yeah, but I have to give it to Vinnie Jones. Though I think he's as a character, I liked his character more than I liked Bricktop. But I think Bricktop, if we're talking about Clutch, is a very important character in this film, because he is the bad guy that Jason Statham, Turkish, and Tommy have to, deal with, right? Like, he is the antagonist in this film. If you want to point to Turkish and say that, you know what I mean? Like, that's him, right? So it would have that whole other storyline, that whole, the whole thing, feeding them pigs and all that stuff, and again, that whole speech that he gives. So I could make an argument for him. I couldn't fit them both in here, though, so I gave it to Vinny.
I was just looking right now, and I'm thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe Cousin Avi. I think he had a clutch performance. I mean, the story really revolved around
Dennis Farina. You think? Yeah, interesting. Okay.
He had a good performance. I mean, he had a good performance, even though I thought he was overacting. Not overacting. I was thinking that he might be overacting there, but I still think he the clutch. Like, I mean, just because that brought that whole storyline together when they called him. He came over, like that. Those little scenes there, I don't know. I just found that they were really good. Like, they caught my attention. Maybe it's because he's the only guy who can speak American. But no, I don't know. Yeah, I think he did a great job. It was either him and I. Like I said, I liked even Soul there, right? And him and Vinny. But I didn't give them any like a clutch performance sort of thing, because I mean they played big parts too in the movie, even though they played big roles or big parts. Like, I mean, when Vinny got stuck with his head in the friggin' all bets are off thing, that that whole little acting scene there. Those guys are hilarious.
That huge fucking gun that they walk in with. Yeah,
fucking beast of a gun.
By the way, because I kind of touched on this earlier, but I guess I never came back around to it. Both of those guys, as I said earlier, they were the biggest fuck ups in the film, because like every time someone had to find out about like the whereabouts of somebody else or the diamond, because they were right in the middle. And they had the diamond the most out of everybody in the film at certain points in time. And ultimately, if we're going to jump ahead talking about the ending here of the movie, the diamond passes through all these people's hands, and then their dog that they had, who was like eating everything in the film, ended up eating the diamond. And then the diamond is picked up by Tommy towards the end of the film, and then essentially the dog shits out the diamond or whatever, or coughs it up or something, and then they end up back at Frank the Head, or whatever his name is. What's his name? Is it Doug the Head's place? Who calls up Avi at the end of the film once again? So because when they find out how much the diamond's worth, they're like, yeah, what's this worth? We're just looking to sell it. This dog coughed it up or shit it out or whatever the hell they say.
No, they went to the vet. They took him to the vet. Yeah, he took out the
and they found a ball. All this other shit that he was eating throughout the
half-chewed sneaker.
Which is why the movie's called Snatch, by the way, because they say that at one point. He says, "Don't snatch," like when he said, like when he takes the ball from him and he ends up like eating it, like swallowing it, and you just hear this squeaking, right?
That whole thing, man. He swallowed that thing right down. Every time he jumps in, you can hear a squeak in the background. Squeak.
Unfortunately, to JT's dismay, it's not called Snatch for another reason. It's called Snatch because they were basically saying, and it also works as a play on words for snatching the diamond, essentially, right? Like as a movie, it kind of works in a couple different ways. But that was the line in the film that you sometimes wonder why a movie's called something, and then someone says a line, you're like, oh, that's the line right there. That's why they call it.
Well, that's what I heard. Yeah, and I was like, I think that's the only time I've heard that word in the whole movie. So that's probably what it is.
He tells the dog not to snatch the ball from him. Essentially, he ends up taking it, right? So, but in a way, we were watching that play out between all the characters with the diamond, right? Like everyone's snatching the diamond from one another, right? So it's a good title now that you think about it in that sense. But yeah, it's just funny because throughout the whole movie, you see these guys. Everyone starts going to the pawn shop where they work and putting a gun to their head. It's like literally every scene they got a gun to their head, and they're like, "Where's this guy? Where's the diamond?" Like you just like these guys just get shitted on throughout the whole movie. So yeah, you're right. They were a very integral part in the film. Like they were an important part, those characters, because they were the neighborhood pawn shop guys that like knew everybody in a way, right? Because people going, they were the main reason that Boris was able to make the connection with Frankie Four Fingers, because he knew who the bookie belonged to, and the bookie belonged to Bricktop. And that's what brought Bricktop back to them. And then when, you know what I mean? So like it all works.
I threw them somehow.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's why I think I would give my clutch performance to, because I mean he's just in it and he needed to be in it, which was Cousin Abby there. So
yeah. All right. Yeah. So Dennis Farina. Okay. What else here? What do we got here? What's aged the best and what's aged the worst? You got anything for these?
You know what ages the worst? Dog fights.
Yes, that's what I have too. That's the only one I got written down. Absolutely.
That's all I have, literally.
That's all I have too. That's literally all I have written down for what's aged the worst. Because otherwise, I think the film's kind of timeless. Like it doesn't really lend itself to like this is the year or two. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't do any of that. Like this could happen today. All this shit that went down in this film, right? Even the boxing, all that stuff, right? But yes, the dog fighting, this didn't age well because it's very frowned upon. It doesn't really go on really like it used to back in the day. It was very common more so at this point in time, right? So yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. Absolutely. Dog fighting. Yeah.
And maybe feeding people to pigs too. Yeah.
Well,
that might not have aged good. Well, there was that killer a few years ago in BC.
Yeah. In real life, right? It's aged pretty well. People are still doing it.
Just starve the pigs for a couple days, dude. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what aged the worst, and for what aged the best, I said how ripped Brad Pitt was in this film.
I was gonna say he looks the greatest still.
He's coming off a Fight Club. This is him coming off a Fight Club. Of course, he looks the best here at this point. This is that Fight Club time, right? So yeah, he's ripped in this film, right? So
I mean, he doesn't even really age, dude. He just gets a little bit of gray hair here and there, and that's it. Like this,
No, there was a time when he was with Angelina towards the end of that marriage where he had that fucking crazy ass beard. He was looking probably the worst I think he's ever looked at, Brad Pitt. I gotta say that he was looking worn out by the end of that marriage. Angelina sucked the life out of Brad Pitt. To be fair.
Literally,
yeah. But yes, yeah, absolutely. I think
she even didn't age that great after that marriage too, dude. I don't think she's aged that great.
He got with her like in her prime, her prime. He ended up with her, right?
Her lips might look messed up. Yeah, she's got all that. Like at least
she's too thin. She's too thin now. Like she had some meat on her when he got with her, right? Like, yeah. So, but yeah. Anyway,
no more cushion for the pushing.
Yeah. So that's all I got for those categories. But I guess with that being said, though, let's move to the big categories here. These are always my favorite ones to go over here. Let me just arrange these in the way where we can have it for next time. Perfect. Okay. Here we go. So here, career peak. All right. So this career peak can be them in their prime, them as part of a fantastic run, before they kind of, went down, like, you know what I mean? Like, or this is them at their peak performance. This is them at their best in this film. this can be categorized a lot, defined a lot of different ways. So I always kind of leave it more open to let people, let us,
Determine it for themselves.
determine what they would say is somebody's career peak, and to justify that, they explain it to us. So do you want to go ahead? Look like you're about to.
Well, I think out of what I kind of researched, and I had to do some research because I mean, we all know where Brad Pitt is in around this time, right? So we all know that. I mean, I wanted to do some little bit of research. The only thing I could find that could have they could have been near their peak at that time, I think, in and around their peak, is Benicio del Toro. I know he's had a few things afterwards, but nothing huge. Like I said, he did 21 grams after he did a few other movies too after that, right? But he did Sicario and those ones, right?
Yes.
But I mean, nothing crazy and outstanding, nothing big money makers, nothing.
But
He does a lot more like indie films in the sense like film festival movies.
Yes. Yeah, but this is him coming off of Usual Suspects, which he was probably his name. He was at the hottest at this point in time when he was in this film. Absolutely. Yep.
I think he did Sin City too, no? Right? Am I not right? He was on Sin City Part 1. Yeah, he was after that. But I mean, that was just, it was a movie, but it was nothing crazy for him. He was still just a guy on this, in the background. He wasn't the main character, right? Not like Rourke, right? So yeah, that's who I'm gonna go with. I was gonna say him or like I said, Lenny James, because all he really did was Fear the Walking Dead after in Walking Dead, but that's huge.
No, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I definitely looked. That was definitely one that I took into consideration. But I'm gonna go with what you said at first is Brad Pitt. This is part of that run. This is part of that Brad Pitt run. This is not him at his final peak. He went on to other great movies after this, but this is probably in the middle of that fantastic run that he had in the late 90s to the mid 2000s.
The big money maker.
Absolutely. So I gotta say Brad Pitt. But if I didn't give it to Brad, that's also an excellent answer you gave for Benicio. I can't argue that. I mean, the person you absolutely cannot say that it was is Jason Statham, because this movie was huge for him, right? Like he went on.
This movie, and he went on and did all those other crazy.
Yeah. That's the one person I think out of this whole list that like you can't even consider for this category. But I think otherwise, everybody else.
Jason Statham benefited out of this role.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
got his face out there.
There you go. That's the career peak for you guys. But Benicio del Toro, absolutely. I can't disagree with you there. But yeah, Brad Pitt, we've talked about it before. I think we also probably maybe one of us gave this category to him when we did Fight Club last time as well. Yeah, because this is just that era. This is a Brad Pitt era, right? And then after that, like the roles are kind of fewer and far between, like the big roles for him. Or at least like some of the more memorable things. After that, Quentin Tarantino got a hold of him somewhere down the line, and for me, like that's been his best work that he's done in recent years, has been that, because he's doing a lot of like producing now and stuff like that. Like he doesn't do as much acting, like what was it, the 12 Years a Slave? Like he helped produce that. Like he's been involved in a lot of big.
His money's helping talk.
Absolutely. So like that's kind of like where his place in Hollywood has been nowadays. Like now he needs he needs a Tarantino now to come to him and be like, I want to cast you in this film, right? Yeah. Like he needs that now. Like not that he needs, like I'm sure
not that he's old or anything.
No, I'm sure he can get lots of work, but he doesn't need to, right? No. So like now like he'll be like, yeah, that sounds interesting, and then he'll like do something, right? So
yeah. He doesn't need to have a main role or anything. I mean, he'd still do it if he had a chance to. I could see him still taking a huge main role and stuff like that. But they're gonna have to pay him big money, over $20 million for that role, easy.
Right.
That's over a $20 million man right there.
Yeah.
Per film. So,
right.
That's not a joke. Imagine making $20 million to act, bro.
Wow, I know, that's crazy.
And that was just what started it. Who knows what they make now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then moving on to one of our final categories here, another big one.
Yeah.
Who won the movie? And I'll start us off here. But as you were just saying, this is a tie. I couldn't decide which one out of these two, because I think that both of these guys benefited mutually from this film and by working together for a second time. And that's Jason Statham, like we just mentioned, and Guy Ritchie. I think both of them coming off of this film benefited. Like Guy Ritchie, like you said, like Brad Pitt came to him. Like Brad Pitt was huge at this time, came to him because he wanted to work with him. It's not the other way. You know what I mean? It's not like Guy Ritchie couldn't have worked the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Like he was still very, a new director on the scene at this time. And not only did he write this movie, he directed this movie. So like, and I think moving forward, he became more of like, if you look at a lot of the films he did after this, they were the big, more blockbuster type films and not really films like this anymore, which he kind of became a director. I don't like, I don't like, these are my favorite films by him, the ones we talked about today. Right. So like, he now he's directing things. He's doing like Aladdin for Disney, or he's doing,
That's where the money is, bro.
Right. Which, okay, that's cool. No, or he did like the King Arthur movie, or, and things like this, or the Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., which the first one was good. I like the second one was like whatever. But for that matter though, like, yeah, he went on to do the big, more Hollywood blockbuster type films where like this and Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels like felt like, you know what I mean? Like smaller and more indie kind of films, even though this was a bigger budget and more like, bigger actors, obviously. And that's what he said. By the time you get to The Gentleman, look at all the people he's working with. Right. So, but yeah, I got to say both of them, I couldn't decide out of these two guys because Jason Statham went on to have like a huge career after this movie. And this guy had a great directing career since this film. Right. And yeah, so I got to give it to both of them. I got to give a tie for that one.
Yeah. Nice. No, I just had Jason Statham because like I said, I think he benefited the most out of this. So I think he and his role, just by being the narrator, by telling the story and being in the part of the movie too. I just think that way he won. He might have not had the best performance in all of my mind, but I think he stole the movie by that because that's what got him out there and noticed and I guess along with Guy Ritchie, I never, that's one thing I always forget about is the director in that sense.
Yeah. No, you do. Yeah. But I mean, to be fair though, I would lean more towards Jason Statham as well in this because I think either way, Guy Ritchie was going to go on to have a great career. We don't know if Jason Statham would have got noticed for more things. Even though his career went in a different path too, kind of being more of an action film guy, of course. But we don't know for a fact if he wasn't cast in these early Guy Ritchie movies, if he would have been noticed as much as, what I mean? All of a sudden he's in a movie with Brad Pitt, right? He's acting opposite of Brad Pitt. So I think it's very clear, even from by watching Guy Ritchie's earlier films prior to this, that he was going to go somewhere. Like clearly, like I said, Brad Pitt was the one that seeked him out because he was impressed with his work, right?
Yeah,
But I don't think you can say the same thing about Jason Statham. At least,
he probably had to try for that role hard.
Well, again, I think
not hard.
He knew Guy Ritchie, or Guy Ritchie knew him, and to be fair, I didn't really see him in a lot back then, other than these two Guy Ritchie films, the Lock, Stock and Smoking Barrels, and this, which I think Lock, Stock was it 98 or 97?
Is that before this one? Yeah, yes. It must be, right?
It was, yes, yeah. I would have to check, but
I can check right here for you.
But
go on.
You have it up?
Yeah, it is
98.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. So yeah, so I think I would lean more towards Jason Statham, but I just think that Guy Ritchie definitely right there with him in terms of who won the movie, who benefited the most from this
film. Yeah. I mean, I just find that Statham, he did a good job. He played his character right. He did everything he had to do. Like I said, he actually looked like an English perv with that friggin' trench coat down, That's why I thought he was a detective at one point. But then when I realized he wasn't a detective, I had to go back and hear how they were describing him in the beginning.
Well, if you look at his credits prior to this, they're just shorts. Like he's just in and then it's literally Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. And then his career just takes off. Like these literally were the two movies. So again, that's why I'm more leaning towards him. I think Guy Ritchie was going to work out either way, but But then, like literally, for these two movies, that his career just like went into, and
Transporter, Bank Job, all those freaking movies, man.
Yeah, listen. 2 years later, he's in The Transporter. That was a series of films. That was a series of films. It wasn't three. I think it was. Yeah, there you go. That was a series of films. 2 years later, after this movie, he's in Transporter.
Yeah.
right? Like,
And that was the three of them.
yeah, you know what? I take my answer back. It has to be Jason Statham. Guy Ritchie. Yeah, I gotta take it back. It was.
And he's in like three of the Fast and the Furious too.
Now that I really, because I wrote both of them down instinctively, but now that I'm looking into it more so, absolutely got to give it to Jason Statham. There's no question. Yeah, he benefited the most because
for sure.
The fact that he was in nothing prior to this, these two movies that he did with Guy Ritchie, and then he's in the Transporter series, right? 2 years later.
Dude, after the Transporter, he went to Expandable series. He went to Fast and the Furious series. He did. I'm looking at it right now. He's got like 4 or 5 of the Fast and the Furious, all the Expandables.
Yeah, he's in Revolver. That's another good Ritchie film. I like that one. That one's decent.
The Mechanic, that was another good one.
Mechanic was kind of like the Transporter, though.
Crank, same thing, right?
Crank, I like Crank.
Bank Job. Yeah, it was just crazy. Pink Panther.
And now he's part of the Fast and the Furious franchise. You know what I mean? So he's had a great career, man, for what he's done. Yeah, absolutely. I may not be everybody's. Again, he's more of an action film guy now, but that's why I think, the Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there you go. Jason Statham absolutely run from this. But with that, though, let's get into any unanswerable questions before we get to our final comments on the film. Anything that you're left wondering at the end of this movie? I thought it was a very tight script. So like I said earlier, I don't think it left me with many questions. At the end of the film, I thought they didn't really veer off too many places where I felt like things were left unanswered, but maybe you feel differently, Jay. What do you think?
Well, I noticed there was a part that all of a sudden, when what's his name gets there, Boris, when he gets to get the suitcase, right? And he cuts off, he all of a sudden pulls out the friggin' butcher knife. Yeah, but he pulls out a butcher knife, not a blade, but he pulls out a butcher knife from his friggin'.
He's got a satchel for it.
Why the hell is somebody carrying that? Like, I don't understand. I can only understand you carrying a gun.
His name's Boris the Blade. Like, what do you?
I just didn't think, like, at that moment. I was like, why?
You mean Boris the Blade, Boris the Butcher, Boris the? Remember
that's why it's so hard to kill. Yeah.
Boris the Bullet Dodger.
Where did the dog come from?
He just found him. That's what he said. He just found, like, when he went to the Vinny, who is the Walking Dead guy, right? Lenny. What was his buddy?
Robbie McGee or Robbie Gee.
So when Vinny came into the shop, he had the dog with him, and he said, "Yeah, I just found him, or he followed me home, or something." He did say, but it's not like you got like a backstory for the dog. He just found. Yeah,
that's what I mean. And then all of a sudden it comes back at the end there like that, just randomly. Like, I mean,
the dog played a huge part after all, right? But I hated the part too that was funny was like when Vinny Jones, Tony there was like, because Abby was ordering him around the whole time. But she ultimately ends up killing him at the end there and fucks off out of London because he accidentally shoots him like an idiot when he's like firing the gun because he's chasing the dog. He's like, "All right, Tony, take care of the dog." He's like, "What?" He's just like, "Yeah, get that diamond out of him." And he's just like, he goes to like take out the blade and the dog just starts going crazy. Just like, at first he's like, "I'm not cutting that dog off." Like, what the hell's wrong with you, right?
And the dog takes off, and then they had no idea where it went, and then they screwed off, and it was just like, fuck, they had nothing to do. It was great, man. That's for unanswerable questions. That's all I really had. And I mean, where did the gypsies go? I mean, they always take off, right? I mean, they're like, were they really there? No.
The only thing I kind of wrote down, but it wasn't an unanswerable question in the sense, like, I get why they did it, just because it kind of, like I said, it became a little bit wacky. Was just like, how would he have survived getting shot and hit by a car? Boris, like, it kind of gets ridiculous when it comes to that. But that's the whole essence of that character, is that he's able to survive all this shit, right? That's his thing. So it didn't bother me, and it didn't leave me like scratching my head, like, how could he have done that? Like, I get what they were trying to get at, but realistically, no one would survive all that shit that happened, right? I mean, like Tony at the end there, we don't really even know if he actually died, right? He left that room at the end there. Who the hell knows? He shoots him like 6 times when he's on the ground, and then he gets hit by the car.
Because he keeps making noises.
Yeah. So who the hell knows, right? That's I guess my only unanswerable question is, did he survive or not, right? But That's
Oh man, it's like him and Bluetooth Tony, right? Like Bluetooth Tony. Sorry. The that he really gets shot all those times with the and survive that. The way that came out of nowhere. That scene where the the guys with the butcher sword.
yeah.
Sorry, the samurai sword. Yeah, he's trying to right. But what about that other guy that was in the back seat there, where the knife just went stabbed him?
Yeah, he was like Avi's muscle from the States, essentially, right? Yeah, that
Yeah.
he ends up getting, and like Tony's trying to tell Avi just to like, kill Boris in the back, and he's just like, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "Yeah, just stab him. Like, what's the big deal, right?" And like, meanwhile, that guy's taking out his samurai sword. The samurai sword came from Tony. That you've seen him in that first scene when they introduced him from his past.
Yeah,
Japanese guy or whatever the hell he was with the samurai sword. Yeah. So that's why that was in the back, right? I actually, as much as I like his character in this movie, you need to go watch. Now you need to go watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Jay, because he has a fantastic character in that movie as well, which is just a couple years earlier. But like the film feels more like an indie film. It's very low budget compared to Snatch, but he's very good in it. You got to watch that one, I think, next. I don't know if we'll bother doing a show on that one just because it's like. It's very related, like it's very similar to Snatch, so I don't think we should do that anytime soon. Maybe somewhere down the road, but yeah, you should check that one out. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
I have it on my subscription, my Prime subscription, so I'll have to check that out. But yeah, no, because it keeps popping up now, right?
Yeah,
it's going to be popping up now that I've seen this one. It's going to show me anything that's related to Guy Ritchie, right?
Yeah. So. That other scene that was good too is when they're all in the hallway. They're all in that small hallway of that pub at the end of the film. There, that's when he shoots him like 6-7 times, and the Vinny and all them they come in there, and all of a sudden it's a showdown between Avi, Vinny, and Boris right on one side of the door, and Buddy's still in the pub. Tony, after he scares them off with the gun, the whole gun speech, right? And Tony starts shooting through the freaking wall of the pub because they're all like in this very thin corridor, right? And that's like the worst place to be, like in a gunfight. You couldn't run, like you're all just stuck in there. And Buddy and Tyrone, you never know what happens to Tyrone if he got hit or not. It doesn't look like. But then Tony at the end, he fires like 6 shots into Boris or whatever, and he goes to shoot Tyrone at the end there, and like it goes off, and there's no bullets in his.
Like, lucky you
lucky fat bastard. Yeah, basically like he's like, you lucky bastard. And he just walks out, right?
Did you see the size of the holes that fucking that's a handgun, bro.
Yeah, it's a hand cannon. That one he was shooting. Absolutely. Yeah, it was a Desert Eagle.
Bigger holes than the shotgun did, man.
How big that gun is? You ever seen one in real life?
No, bro. I don't hold guns. I only hold the one between my pants. But
even replicas, even if you look at like replicas of those guns, are massive. Like the actual gun itself is like it's a big gun.
Yeah, right? No, I don't know too much about guns. But then when I seen the way that thing shot, man, I was like, holy fuck. Yeah. That put a 5-inch bullet through you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Holy shit.
So last but not least, any other comments on the film? Anybody else who ended up that is maybe in the chat or is tuning in right now, that anything they had to say about the film if they watched it? I know there wasn't that much people commenting on it tonight. A few comments here and there, but yeah, I mean, I think we covered majority of it. I don't know if there's anything. A lot of the things I had to say, I kind of said throughout. Again, I just want to leave off by saying, watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. If you have watched the movie Snatch, you've not seen that film. It's the earlier, more indie version of this film, like more low budget that Guy Ritchie did a couple years prior to Snatch. But I think more people have seen the movie Snatch than they have Lock, Stock, and I think that both of them are good. And of course, you got The Gentleman, which kind of ends off the English gangster heist movie trilogy, really, for Guy Ritchie. I think all 3 of those films are excellent. That's all I had to say about it.
Yeah, no, I thought, you know what, I told you, like after I didn't think it was good the first time I watched it. I told you, and then I watched it again, and then you know what I mean, and I really sat there to pay attention to it, and I thought it was funny. After all, I mean,
it's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun characters, right? Like, yeah. And
then they just, the way they joke around, like, I mean, everything's just like, I feel to Brad Pitt, everything's just to Mickey, everything's just, he's just, he lives by the whim,
Not only that, it looks like the people that filmed it had a fun time filming it. Like, that's like, to me, like, it looked like that was probably a fun set to be on. Like,
Yeah, it didn't look like they were like fucking what do you call that? Shitty to being at work, you know what I mean? Like they're cranky for being at work. No, they look like they were having a great time.
Yeah. And these are a lot of guys that were in this film that, again, were in a lot of action films and like more serious films, like dramas, right? So, like, in this movie, with the way like some of these characters are, I think they were able to let loose a little, right? And be a little
Oh yeah.
because as much as a crime movie, this is like a heist film. This isn't like The Town or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like on that level where it's more of like a drama. This is a comedy action kind of like
Action comedy sort of
crime movie. Yeah, like it's more of a comedy. Like it's almost yeah, like you definitely have to classify it as a comedy, because as much as there's like some serious moments and not really serious, just like, oh, we're gonna get killed, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Like, look at this bad guy at Bricktop. Like, other than the Bricktop scene, it's a pretty fun, like funny movie, right?
it is.
Yeah. So that's all.
All the way around, like all. I mean, it was interesting to watch. Like I said, in the beginning, the rollout for me was a little bit. Like I said,
Yeah.
Till I started understanding what they. Like I said, the more you watch it, the more you understand it too, right? Right. So I was really getting into it. To be honest with you, I really got into it this second,
Right.
third round. So
Yeah.
I had a good watch with that. I didn't think I was once I watched it the first time. I remember I even said it to you. I was like, "Fuck, what are you making me watch this movie for?" No, I hate fucking accents. I said that right in the beginning because I just hate movies with accents, man. It's hard.
Well, I'm glad you went out of your comfort zone and enjoyed that.
Thank you, bro. You know, it was really good. I might have to watch the other one.
That's the fun part about doing this show. And in that, with that being said, have you decided upon our next film that you would like to watch next episode? Now, that actually might be one of my first appearances back to Late Night Chat Network, everybody. As just this past Monday show was my last Late Night Chat episode for the foreseeable future. But I had agreed to continue doing this show with Jay.
So once a month we can talk and you shoot the shit with me.
Yeah. So we're you're gonna see me on this one for sure. So have you decided what you want the next movie to be, Jay?
So I was trying to debate on two movies, if I wanted to go funny or if I wanted to go serious. Like I did, I always do that, man. Like you made me watch The Beach Bum the other day, and I was thinking maybe we should do that one because I wouldn't mind watching that one again. But I also, because I've been watching Clarice, I was thinking maybe Red Dragon. It's a lot harder to pick apart, in a sense, because it's the Hannibal Lecter one, and it's the first one out of all of them. So I don't know. I was thinking that, and then I was also thinking I keep thinking of a Woody Harrelson movie, man. They mentioned it today on the radio. They tried they were saying something about him that he had accusations against him again.
I mean, if you want to do a Woody Harrelson movie, I can bring up his IMDb right now.
Oh, I can throw off a bunch of them. Hey, we're going to do Hunger Games. No, not at all. I love that movie. I love that movie, be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie. I love Hunger Games.
No. Yeah. But he's not like the main character in that. It's not about Woody Harrelson. He's good at it. Don't get me wrong. I like those movies. Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
So, what about if you want to do a Woody Harrelson? You want to do People versus Larry Flint?
Really? Yeah, I like that movie. I'm down with that.
I fucking love it, bro.
Okay. You want to do that? That's an interesting pick. I don't think that movie gets talked about enough. So I think that's actually because some of these films that
he just died a while ago, eh?
I know. Yeah, some of these films that we've done, there's obviously big films I wanted to talk about, but I think a lot of these ones that we've done so far have been taught to death by other people. But that's one that, like, I know a lot of people like that movie, but I don't think I've ever heard like any in-depth discussion for the most part of that film. At least I haven't come across anything like that. So yeah, okay.
A lot of it's real life too, eh? Like it's based on a real life story, right? So I mean,
yeah. It's Hustler, right? It's the Hustler magazine.
Hustler magazine.
Yeah. So
the dirtiest one back then.
Yeah, that was the one that showed their vagina, right? Their vagine.
Oh, their snatch.
Anything else? Because I think at first it was just the top, Playboy and stuff like that, right? Then it was kind of everything all of a sudden with that. Yeah, I've seen the film. It kind of explains. See, that's the interesting thing about that movie too. Like you said, it is kind of autobiographical in a sense. Like it actually tells you some of the history of how the magazine came together and how like it changed the way that porn industry, like for magazines and stuff, really kind of
They were kind of mocking the
Yeah.
Playboy because the Playboy would put real articles in there, and then he'd put fucking bullshit articles.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but yeah, that is all stuff that's in the film. Yeah, all right, sounds good. So I think we're looking at, unless the date might change, but I think at least on our calendar there, I had marked this down depending on Jay's schedule as possibly Wednesday, April 28th as the next late night at the movies, guys. So we'll be, check our Instagram. We'll update you on that one. But yeah, unless anything changes, we're probably going to be looking at that the end of April for the next episode of Late Night at the Movies. My return to the channel at that point on this show, so that'll be good. So I'm very much looking forward to that. To plug a couple more shows, if you do end up checking this out, and please, before you leave today, remember to give that thumbs up, that like button on the screen here. Make sure you're subscribed if you're tuning into this or checking out a review. Hit that notification bell to be notified of this and many other shows. And lastly, we got 2 more shows coming up this week. On Friday, we got our first live Crack and Packs episode, a live event here with me, Christine, Peter. I'm going to be hosting. They're going to be opening up the new Pokemon Battle Style set, so that should be a lot of fun. I think that's going to be at 9 p.m. this Friday. Nice. Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. Come through in the chat and shoot the shit with us and watch these guys open some packs. Should be a good time. And then on Saturday we got the Drunk Cast here. I think we're probably going to be a 8:30 start on the Drunk Cast this Saturday here on the Late Night Chat Network. Kind of my send off with some drinks, shooting the shit, open invitation to anybody that wants to come on screen and chat it up with us for a bit. Kind of the structure is a little bit more loose and the conversation just goes
very loose.
Yeah, absolutely.
I even talked to my brother this week, yesterday, I think it was, to let him know about it. He goes, "Oh, you guys are doing one this week?" He goes, "I'll come on there with my drink recipes."
I would love it. Yeah. That was people love the drink recipe. So if he's got another one, absolutely. I'm glad you told him, because I think that might even make its way onto the Best of Late Night Chat episode next week. So and hopefully that comes out next week, guys. I'm hoping it does. If not, we're going to be off. There's no Late Night Chat show next week. But then the following week, Jay is going to be starting out Late Night Chat with a revolving group of 4 co-hosts, 3 of which have been announced officially on the channel so far, and that's Leslie, Julie, and Rob. And there's one other surprise host that's going to be making an appearance, I think, on Saturday's Drunk Cast that we've yet to announce officially. So look forward to that. And every week you'll see a different one of these hosts on with Jay for Late Night Chat moving forward. So yeah, we're very much looking forward to all this stuff coming up. And I know I am. Jay, what do you got to say?
I'm gonna lose my co-host before the fucking show even starts, man. I'm gonna lose 2 of them just by my cockiness.
Yeah, just write your comments in the group chat, I think.
If she's listening to there, yeah, that STG thing, I had no idea what the hell that said. I had to fucking message Nico before I said anything, Julie. I thought that was hilarious. That's how out of date I am and how old I am, bro. If I can't figure out what short, like, I know what you said, shake my head, but yeah, I'm gonna lose there. Rob, I don't know if he's gonna be able to handle all my controversial comments, so.
We'll see. That'll be the fun of watching these episodes moving forward.
Yeah, that'll be the interesting part. She'll teach me how to do TikTok, and I'll teach Rob how to watch TV.
There you go. I didn't know you had to teach somebody how to do that, but
every time I ask him, he's watching the news, man. How am I going to talk to him about the news?
You know what you guys should do? You guys should do a show where you go and watch Baywatch and then talk about
We should do the red green. We should do the red green kind of show, man.
Oh, I love red green. Yeah, no, but I'm just saying.
Talk about accents.
Rob, I don't know if anybody knew this, but Rob was so cool back in the day that he didn't watch Baywatch. He was out doing
He was doing Baywatch.
He was unaware that it was a show, so definitely check that out. That would be a great show. You guys should you should watch some Baywatch and come report on it on one of these episodes.
That's it, man. There he is.
All right, there you go. I had to heckle the one person that's been in the chat tonight. All right. With that being said, everybody, you heard it here first. If you tuned into this or you're watching the replay, our next film in episode 11, April's movie, Late Night at the Movies pick by Jay, is The People versus Larry Flint, starring Woody Harrelson. I guess it's from the early 90s, maybe 95, 96. Yeah.
There.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Courtney Love.
Yeah, Courtney Love got an award for it. She won an Oscar, yeah, for that one.
Hot, that one, man.
Or an Emmy, or whatever the ones for the films are, right? So
Is that 30-second delay?
yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. So with that being said, though, that'll do it for our episode of Late Night at the Movies tonight. Thank you for tuning in. If you did tonight, or if you catch us on the replay, thanks again.
Yes, and thank you, Neeks.
We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everyone.
Peace out.